Shalom, Brukuba. Welcome. I am joined again today with Christian Gadfly, also known as the cool kids poop in their pantses. Yes.
It's Christian
And Steve
Gayfly.
Gay Flag. True. Okay. Well, today we're going to be going through uh, Genesis again. I completely distract myself. I had Christian Gay Flag again in my ear. And we're going to be going through probably too much. We're going to be a little too ambitious and just go through all of the flood narrative, which is 3.5 chapters. And I don't think we're actually going to go through it, but here we go. We'll see. Yeah. Anyway.
If you were wanting to get
Shalom.
something done tonight, you came to the wrong stream.
Or the right stream. It just depends on your perspective. But welcome to Christian Gadfly's viewers as well. The nerds on that end. Are you guys allowed to be called winglings, or is that like haram?
I wonder what they would be. Yeah, gadfly. Gadites or
Flyers?
something.
The Gadites?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, jumping into it. So I left this. We could have done this last week, but I decided to stop in order for you to be able to give your perspective on who in the world was doing what to who, to where, and when. So Genesis
Are we
6
talking
1.
about the night of Al Zut?
Kind of. Now it happened when men began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were good in appearance. Literally hot. And they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. Then Yahweh said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he indeed is flesh. Nevertheless, his day shall be 120 years. We talked about how lobsters can live forever biologically. They just get depressed and give up on life. Still true. Lobsters, like as long as we have, if we were able to naturally produce telomeres more often, we could theoretically biologically live forever. There's nothing stopping us from being able to do that, and we'll have the technology in the next 20 to 30 years to biologically live forever, just to suspend our aging at the age of like 30 or so. Granted, I'll be an older man by then, so it's going to be significantly less useful to me because you can't reverse aging, but you can at least slow it to a crawl, if not completely eliminate it. So lobsters don't age. They just get bigger until they give up and then die. We could be like that too.
I already saw something interesting to point out, unless you're just desperate to get through verse 4 already.
No, I'm not.
Okay, scroll back up. Scroll up to verse 2.
Oh, okay.
So the sons of God saw the daughters of men were good in their eyes, good in appearance, and took. So they're seeing and taking. These same two Hebrew verbs pop up talking about the fruit in the original falling story in Genesis 3. So it's ki tov. They see that it's good. Let me see where the take is.
Oh, it's the Wayikahu. Right after Hena.
So the lemma is lakach, but because it's the yod, I guess it's an irregular verb, it loses its lamed.
Yeah. Interestingly, this is, I believe, the same word used in Genesis 24 of Jacob taking Rebecca, with the same sexual connotation. So if you say, oh, Rebecca was 3, then this would indicate he penetrated a 3-year-old. This and plus like dozens of other times this word is used, but it means to like literally seize.
And at the beginning of verse 2, you can see the third person plural for to see.
Yeah, yiru.
So, yiru, yeah.
I don't remember if we talked about this last time, but because I know a lot of people take this as like fallen angels type of thing.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about that with you guys.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna
the Nephilim. Yeah, I was curious what you guys' opinion on was it. I said that sentence like Yoda. It's fine. But this section, I would definitely say, is maybe different than what other people say. But we can finish the rest of the section and then go back through. So the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and afterward also. When the sons of God came in to the daughters of men and they bore children to them, those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. So we have descriptions of these men in some of the apocryphal or non-canon Jewish writings, like the Book of Giants, where it talks about Gilgamesh as being one of the Nephilim, including a variety of other names too, where they are literally men of renown. They're men of both great stature, they're giants, and they're also men of great strength or great honor or like well known throughout the land. So like your Hercules, for example.
And look at the Hebrew term for men of renown real quick. There at the end of verse 4. Ashe Hashem. So it's men of the name. And this is a theme that pops up a lot in the Bible of like whenever they build the Tower of Babel, it says they're trying to make a name for themselves. And whenever Yahweh is blessing Abraham, he says, I will make your name great. And so there's a proper way to make your name great and a bad way to make your name great. And so here I'm guessing their names are great in the bad way.
I'm lonely and bored from your
welcome, Steomus. Get ready to well, you'll probably still be bored, but you won't be lonely.
So demigods is the immediate follow-up guess. Yes. So my opinion would be, and you guys can tear me to shreds over it, that this was literal angels or spirit beings necessarily, who were able to somehow procreate with humans. And that created the Nephilim. That the Nephilim are not fully human. They are a different breed of being. And every time we see God the most aggressive in the Old Testament, it usually involves some form of Nephilim. So the flood and the genocides both involve Nephilim. That's kind of interesting. That's a pretty interesting thing. So might have been from one view that Satan's plan to corrupt the bloodline of Eve in order to make the prophecy not come true was to corrupt it with Nephilim so that there would be no literal humans left on earth. That's one idea, one theory.
My beliefs on this are very closely in line with those of Mike Heiser, and they're basically what you just said. And part of the reason for holding them is because if you look at all this Second Temple Jewish literature, which is later, but it gives all of that like background, and you go back, you read that, and a lot of times, so gosh, there's so many terms my brain's jumping to. Hermeneutics. Hermeneutics are tools you use to interpret texts. And one of the ways you can tell you have a good hermeneutic in mind is it makes sense not just of the one place you're in, but it makes sense of a whole bunch of other things. It's like, oh, that makes sense now, and that makes sense now, and that makes sense now. And this is one of those instances where, like, for example, in Deuteronomy 32, it talks about the nations are divided up according to the sons of God, the B'nai Elohim, which seems to be talking about spirit beings. What's interesting is that's missing in the Masoretic text, but it's in the Septuagint and it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it's the original reading. But someone saw it later and was like, ooh, that feels weird with this. And so they changed it to sons of Israel. But no, it was originally the different nations are assigned to the I'm about to go deep in the rabbit hole. It's about to get weird. So the idea with Unseen Realm, which is a book you need to read if you're interested in really weird stuff. Let me preface this. Go out and love your neighbors, make friends, give to the poor. It's probably not your life's purpose to sit online and try to figure out what the Nephilim are.
It's fair. It's absolutely fair.
There's more to life than that. However, it is interesting. Okay. And if you read Unseen Realm, he talks about how originally, God wants to be present with humanity in the Garden of Eden, but then humans sin. And so exile happens and humanity's kicked out. And then with the Tower of Babel, God initiates another exile. And this time he's exiling all of the nations from himself. And there's 70 nations in the table of nations. And so they're all spread out into a new exile. And if you read Deuteronomy 32 with the lens that Mike Heiser gives, it seems like he hands them over. You know how sometimes when you're sinning over and over, the way God might punish you is to hand you over to your sin. And so the idea here is that he hands them over to basically these demon gods, which don't get scared by the word God, because ontologically it's a different thing than God the Father, who's the necessary being who creates everything else. These Elohim that it's talking about in Genesis, it just means spirit beings. So
and the way that the New Testament describes them is the principalities and the powers.
Yes. Yep. And even
so, if you're nervous with the word God, just call them spirits. And principalities and powers. So you can use New Testament language. They're the same thing.
And a way to prove that Elohim just means spirit beings is that even Samuel's spirit that's pulled up by the Witch of Endor, which sounds like something from Star Wars, his spirit is called an Elohim. So, it's just referring to spirit beings. And so the spirit beings are then handed over to all of the different nations. And what God wants to do through Jesus is reintegrate the nations back into himself. And so what happens is, like with Pentecost, it has a table of nations in that story, and it's like the first century equivalent of the Genesis 11 table of nations. And so it's saying all these different nations are collected together, and then fire comes down and everyone is hearing each other in the same language. And so it's showing that God is ending the exile from the Tower of Babel and reintegrating humanity all into himself and undoing the curse of the Tower of Babel. Now, what's really weird, the reason I'm talking so much is because I'm going to leave to go get a hot drink. And so, everyone else will get a turn to talk for a long time. I'm about to make myself a sweet treat. Something else that's weird is if you read Plato's Timaeus and Critias, and I think in Timaeus too, he talks about different gods taking over the different nations, and it's closely associated with the flood. And then if you read Popol Vuh, which is it's not the Aztecs, the Mayans. There's this book written by the Mayans, and it's kind of like their Bible. And they have a story where like people are split up into different nations and speak different languages, and they're handed over to different gods. And it's like, what are the chances this is in ancient Greek mythology? It's in ancient Mayan mythology, and then it's in the Bible. It's just nuts.
I think it's also in Asia somewhere too, if I remember correctly.
I mean, there's like over 50 flood stories from all over everywhere. So that's why I'm probably the most skeptical of like biblical literalism out of everyone on this board. But I do think that it's referring to a real event. I think it's the end of the Younger Dryas, the end of the last ice age. That's what I think it is. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go get a hot, sweet drink.
Before you take your hot, sweet drink, we have this. I hate that poop is a trademark of this channel.
Don't bring it up. The last 3 live streams, people have ended up talking about eating poop.
You have somehow. It in your name.
Isn't it? Oh my gosh, I did it.
You did it.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to leave.
I'm just saying, me and him both have really young kids. And Steven has a younger child, but they should be potty trained by now. Me and Christian Gadfly both have young kids that are not potty trained. I deal with poop every single day of my life. It's just a part of reality for me at the moment. So, poop is it's just here, man. Everyone does it, It's a fun pastime, I guess. Makes you feel better after you're done with it, unless it was just not the type of experience you want, then Anyway, to defend the line with poopy hands. Hey, the poop hands story is great. I don't care what anyone says.
Looks like the back of Christian's chair is the other part of my shoulder. At least from my view.
That's
what I can see in the screen.
Oh no, I can't. No. Not in a way that works. I could mirror you. Anyway. No, I can sandwich myself. That's cute. Actually, I should probably hold on. Wait, where did you go? Oh, you left. I am now alone. Oh, no. Anyway. I don't know where he went. Oh, there he goes. Okay, I'm gonna throw him over there. Ah, there.
Boo.
Now we're here. Our Wi-Fi is being glitchy. Your wife is saying that your Wi-Fi is bad.
Oh, well, I'm not even on the Wi-Fi because I was expecting that, so that's pesky.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Okay, yeah. So pretty much what Christian said. Yeah, I would take mostly the same approach. I do think it was literally angels. I think we also have evidence for this, if you're interested. We have archaeological evidence of a giant spear, multiple giant spearheads found in Gath, where Goliath is said to be from. We also have giant scale plate armor, also from Gath, where Goliath is said to be from. And it weighs the exact same amount that the Bible said that they would weigh. So the armor and weapons match the biblical accounts of the giants in the area by Israel and in Israel that they were fighting and engaging in. So we have decent archaeological evidence that the giants exist. We have lots of stories of giants all over the planet, just as we have stories all over the planet of the flood and the Tower of Babel incident, and of one central high god that made everything that breaks down. So I'll eventually make a video on high deity worship. But if you look at things like Shangdi or the Mayans, Quetzalcoatl, like a lot of the times these pagan polytheistic religions come out of monotheism. So it's like most of the world was monotheistic and a variety of different languages, and they slowly devolved into polytheism to explain the world around them. But they have traces of the biblical God in their narrative, even thousands of miles away from each other, which is pretty based. It's pretty cool.
Which one are you talking about?
Shangdi and Quetzalcoatl specifically. But yeah. Oh, I'll only made it pure. Like I turned the unit. Yeah, anyway, yeah. Anyway. Cain being late. Anyway, I don't know why I'm chiding him like this is a meeting or something.
All right, this is the Popol Vuh, page 152 of whatever edition this is. And the languages of the tribes changed there. Their languages became differentiated. They could no longer understand one another clearly when they came away from Toulon. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. Yeah.
And their gods were given out in order, the first being those of Jaguar Quetzal, Jaguar Night. Not there's a god named Not Right Now. Not Right Now. That's the god that I'm always referring to when my kids are trying to talk to me.
Is it a Wheelish versus the Dark Jaguar? A Wheelish?
So what are you saying?
A Wheelix is how it would be spelled, but they pronounce their X's as shiz.
Oh,
So
I have
Wheelish,
no idea. Yeah, I don't know.
Giblanca.
My eyeball is all bloodshot. I look like King K. Rool. Look at that.
At first, I thought it was something Chris said.
No, that's from yeah. It's like that's from me yelling "Not right now" all day. He's one of the gods, along with "Shut up and leave me alone."
Oh, yeah. The other interesting bit of evidence we have, not just from like global stories, we also have language isolates, which is pretty wild. And we have a lot of them all over the world, which is also wild.
Basque is a weird one. Have you ever looked at Basque?
No. The ones.
Excuse me. I was not speaking Basque. I'm speaking indigestion.
Korean is interesting because Korean is like one of the oldest, and it's a language isolate. But it goes way, 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 way back, and it just never was integrated into other societies, where all the other Asian societies don't have Korean. It's just by itself. China developed into a bunch of different ones, or Chinese developed into a bunch of different ones. We have a bunch of Semitic ones as well, with the I believe it was Akkadian and the Sanskrit language, which I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment right now.
I don't want to interrupt you. You seem like you're okay. This is from ancient Greek. This is from Plato. He wrote in 400 BC from Greece. He says this in Cretias, which is, by the way, where we get all the stories about Atlantis from. So if you ever want to go down that rabbit hole, get Timaeus and Cretius. Once upon a time, the gods divided the whole earth among themselves region by region. There were no disputes involved. After all, it makes no sense for the gods not to know what is appropriate to each of them, blah, blah, blah. So each gained by just allocation what belonged to him, established communities in his lands, and having done so, began to look after us, his property and creatures, as shepherds do his flocks, with the difference that they did not use physical means of compulsion. Shepherds use blows as they tend their flocks, but the gods focused on the part of each creature which makes it most easy to steer. Like helmsmen steering from the stern, they took hold of its mind, employed the rudder of persuasion as they saw fit, and in this way guided and led every mortal creature as a whole. What is happening to my voice? I'm being cursed by the djinn. First my eye went out, now my voice is leaving.
You need your hot treat to soothe your voice.
Oh, I got to show off this mug. You're always showing. So he's got a cow that's eyes look like boobs, and he thinks it's so cool. But it doesn't compare with this. This is a Bob Ross mug, and it's totally black. But if you put hot liquid in it, it starts to paint itself. You can get them on Amazon, but don't put it in the wash because it like peels apart. I did that one time, and I had to order another one.
Alan is punishing you with your voice and your eyes.
Christian, is a hot drink something just you say, or is that a Southern thing, or
it's just something I say. Nobody says that.
Like what? You mean like tea? Is it tea or coffee or what's a hot drink?
Chocolate.
I was purposely vague because I didn't want to have to talk about what this is because it's a little embarrassing because it's weird. It's the stuff called Pero. It's like, I think it's made with dandelion roots or something. I don't know, but it's good. Nobody knows what it is.
It's fair. All right.
The only downside is when you drink a bunch of it, it makes your pee smell like it.
That's not a downside if it tastes good or smells good.
What is it? I mean, does it smell? Yeah, does it smell good? Not like asparagus. That's different. That's terrible.
Dude, asparagus, that's the one downside. That's a pretty good vegetable otherwise.
Yeah, right.
If you eat a bunch of salsa, it makes your pee smell sweet. It's nice.
Asparagus is a good reminder that there's always a catch with something. It's trade-offs.
I just hate when you forget, like you don't think about it. It's like 2 hours after dinner, and you go to the bathroom, and you're like, "What the heck?" Oh yeah.
Why do you smell your pee? You pee and you smell it
because it tastes so good.
It tastes so good. Whenever it hits the water, it's creating.
Sometimes I get sick of camel urine and I need to switch it up. Okay.
I mean, it'd be like that. Free radicals. So like all the stuff that's in your nose, you pee, it just volatiles. That's the one I was thinking of. My wife deals with pee. It's for her profession. So I hear the word volatiles fairly often.
Is she a Muslim imam who's teaching people about sin?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Anyway, so Nephilim. Before we get back to the flood, the Nephilim. The question I usually get asked is, well, if sons of God means angels, how can angels reproduce with humans? And
that's what I was
if they did
ask.
If they did, then how do they continue to reproduce with humans, or why did they stop being able to reproduce with humans? We want giants. Yeah. So I've thought about this a bunch of times, and I've come away with various different answers. So I'm also curious what Christian's going to say on this one. But a couple theories that pop in my head. One, because they had access to the heavenly language and a higher level of authority and spirituality, they may have been able to interact with spirit beings in a way that we can't right now because God took it away at the Tower of Babel. So I would say pre-Babel time, they were able to actually just get down and dirty with demons or angels. Then after the Tower of Babel, it would be removed. So before the flood, they were there because of that. Then after the flood, they were there because of that. And God didn't fully wipe them out after the flood before the Tower of Babel event happened, because the Tower of Babel event was a while after the flood, because there was generations of people working together in a city. So if it is part of the heavenly language and the greater level of authority and understanding of the spirit realm, then maybe possibly they could be interacting with the demons/angels in this way. And that would be stones, not bricks. Okay, I'm sorry. It could have been from that as one possible understanding for me. Another one would be God just permitted it, then he stopped permitting it. But why? It'd just be like, I don't know. Then the other one would be that they can't. And then this is actually humans, not demons or gods. But if once you take that view, it becomes difficult to understand what the Nephilim were. If you say, oh, these are just like the men of history, men of name, or like who made a name, men of renown, why did they stop? Why did they cease? How did Gath and produce all of these giant humans if it's not from some supernatural cause? Because these guys are not just big, they are ridiculously big. Their spearheads are like that. Like spearheads are normally like this. Their spearheads like this. There is one of the spearheads that was recovered in Gath, I believe, is in the museum in Tel Aviv. It's pretty basic. I can pull up a picture of it with Joel Kramer holding it if you want to see it real quick if you haven't. But
So
what do
I'm
you
all
say on
for
that?
the giant spearhead actually belonging to a giant spearhead wielder. But
Yeah.
but also it makes me think like because Native Americans, they would make. So this isn't exactly a very good analogy, but they would make ceremonial
No,
arrowheads
I
that
wanted-
weren't for the purpose of actually being an arrowhead. So theoretically, could they have made this as some sort of like
No.
ceremonial item?
So that is what people typically bring up. But if you see here, there's a scar on it, and there's also scratches all the way down it from battle. So this is a
Okay.
spearhead, and multiple of these had these signs of damage being done to them.
Okay.
That one also has a cut there. It has a nick here. These are a nick there. These are spearheads that were used to pierce something bone or something metal, because that's the only thing that folds this type of metal.
Have you ever looked
In
up
this
like
way.
the Philistine Kofesh swords?
Those
They
like
are
the ones that
no.
sick
straight
looking.
and then
Yeah, they
yeah,
look
those are
so cool.
yeah.
Oh yeah. These things are
And I'm
super
thinking
tasty.
like the go down with your mouse to the right. That one that's stuck in the log. That one. That's
That
what
one.
they.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, those things look so cool. I
The
want one
Egyptian
so
ones.
bad.
Yeah.
I want one made out of like a meteorite, a melted meteorite. When we hit it big on this channel, all that revenue comes in.
We're all getting meteorite swords.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna blow it on. I want that, and I want a whole skeleton of a T-Rex, the fossils. Should put that in my library. I'll just have it here behind me. We'll have to rip out the roof to fit it. It'll be so big.
All right. So then these are the scale plates. So each one of these is about the size of a human hand. Now scale plates are typically really, really small. They're not like massive. So the amount of we found in one pile would indicate a coat of arms, but this body size is like some dude who was 15 to 20 feet tall and wide.
I'm so glad we're getting into evidence of giants because I'm always kind of skeptical, but I want to believe, you know?
Mhm. And there's other reports that are less credible than those of like giant barrel. So I'm sure people have seen, like anyone who's studied and looked into giants, they've seen these burial grounds. But there is
Oh yeah.
giant burial sites in America, and there are a bunch of pictures that may have been hoaxes. I can bring up one right now.
I've seen wackadoodle YouTube channels where they talk
It's like
about Native
this.
Americans. Whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I want that to be real so bad. Like I saw like a YouTube channel from some wackadoodle thing talking about there's
Yeah.
these redheaded giants that Native Americans were killing. I'm like,
Mm.
oh
Right.
man, that would be such a good movie.
So there is reports of that though. Like
Yeah, they were
it's not
they
even-
ate humans supposedly.
They did.
these giants.
Oh right.
supposedly. Same with Greece. Greece also has giant, the Cyclops of the Odyssey or the Iliad, the Odyssey. The Odyssey has the Cyclops, and he's giant. He's around this height, and he eats people.
Yeah.
And he
Mhm.
got super drunk, and then he killed him, and so on. But we have stories of giant human-like creatures that eat humans all over the planet that are in this size range of the 16 feet to like 20 feet. We have it in Egypt, we have it in America, we have it, I believe, in South America, we have it in Asia, we have it in the Middle East, all over the place. We have it in the America or the Europe, America Junior, I guess, Sub America.
Some of the wackadoodles say too on these channels, they'll say stuff like that somebody had found the giants' bodies, but then the government came and threw them into the ocean.
Right, like the
Weird stuff.
Smithsonian. Yeah, the Smithsonian bought it all, and it's like, I mean, those are all pretty unfounded. We don't actually know if any of that is real or not.
Yeah.
But we do know the ones from Israel are real, and they match the descriptions
so, I mean,
of
we
the
just
Bible.
looked at it.
Right, and the weapons too. So we have weapons and armor from a place that the Bible says giants lived in, and it's the size of the things the Bible says it happened. So it says it was like 200 something shekels of silver was the weight of the spearhead, and we weighed it, and it's the exact weight, and it's like, oh,
Have you
That's
heard
pretty cool.
the theory about where demons come from?
which the marketplace one or what?
No, not that. Well, now we
Amazon.
got to go into that so people know what you're talking about.
No,
So
we don't.
earlier, Chris made the ridiculous claim that demons can't have sex, but we know this is wrong because there's a hadith that talks about the Satans have a PP on one knee and they have a vajayjay on the other knee, and they can clap their knees together, and then they can lay eggs, and then more Satans hatch out of these eggs.
I hate that.
Thank you for derailing me, Chris. I was about to
Just
talk
as
about
funny
something
every
else.
time.
That comes up every. We'll just have to mention that every single live stream. What were we talking about?
How demons are made.
Oh, have you heard the theory? Have you heard the theory about where demons come from?
Maybe it depends which one you're talking about.
So, some first century Jewish sources believe that what happened is the sons of God, these powerful spiritual beings, had sex
the
with
Enochian?
humans, and they had giant babies. And then these giant babies are part divinity; they're part God, lowercase g, and so they couldn't totally die. But when you would kill the giants, the spirit would still go around. It was these unclean spirits.
Right.
Yeah, dead Nephilim. So the dead Nephilim spirits are like the unclean spirits of the New Testament. So when it talks about principalities and powers, it ontologically it seems to be talking about something that's way more intelligent, sophisticated, and powerful than just these unclean spirits that infest people, and then they go and scrape scabs off themselves in a graveyard naked, surrounded by pigs. Right? That seems to be one kind of entity, and then another kind of entity seems to be, whatever it is that's possessed Epstein to eat babies. Like the guys running the world are different from just these unclean spirits that make you go crazy. And the unclean spirits are supposedly the dead Nephilim.
Yeah, that's the Enochian worldview.
Yeah.
Which was super common. It was pretty common. So how did the Nephilim survive the flood? Hey, it's going black. That's so cool.
Yeah, as it's cooling down, the paint is disappearing and it's just becoming black.
It's kind of sad.
Cool.
It is, yeah. But it's the cycle of
is
life.
setting on
Another
Bob
hot
Ross.
drink will come eventually.
He's gonna make a hot liquid again. So how did they survive the flood? I don't think they did. I think they just repopulated after the flood. Which again, so I'd say before, in my view, my current hypothesis, I would say that they were only able to have that type of intercourse because of either the relationship they had with God or the SAS that they were in, or something different about them that both maybe affected their lifespan, or also just their ability to commune with the heavenly beings. Because theoretically, the language of the Garden of Eden was the same language of the heaven and what God speaks to the spirit beings and all that stuff. Like, there's no reason for God to have made a human earth language and then spirit heaven language. There's no logical reason to do that. So likely they were the same. So until that language was destroyed and God took it away from us at the Tower of Babel, which may have been because in Genesis 11 says, look at what they're doing. There's going to be like nothing that they will not be able to do. And some of that was with their authority and their power. And we are made in the image of God. We are little gods in a way, little g's. And part of that is our authority to speak and things happen. We have creative authority on this planet in a way that demons and angels don't. So you could also be like, oh, well, the women use their creative authority with the demons or angels to reproduce. And then God took it away from us, or at least weakened it at the Tower of Babel. That would be my tin hat theory version of it. As far
you
as
call that tin hat theory, get ready. Because I'm going to take a swing at this question next, and y'all are never going to have me back on again. It's going to get so weird.
Go for it. That would basically be my things. Like they were able to silver populate until the Tower of Babel, and then they lost that ability. But at that point, they were already giants. So by the time of David, whenever they're like a quarter or less Nephilim, and they're just mostly humans at that point, it's why they're much shorter or much smaller, and they'd already been genocided like twice at that point. Anyway.
All right, let me share my screen.
Okay.
Where's the Google Maps?
Yes, in fact, 8 people only survived.
Okay, so he asked, can y'all see where I'm zooming in and out of Florida?
Yeah, you can.
Mhm.
You see that guy wrestling an alligator down there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this old continental shelf is probably where the old shoreline was at the end of the last ice age. And you can still see it on these maps. And as we all know, human populations typically live along coastlines. And so whenever the last ice age ends, sea levels rise, everything floods, and it destroys most humans.
Excuse me, sir, it's the Gulf of America.
Let me see the Gulf of America. You actually see where Florida used to be way larger.
The Gulf of America says it best. Yeah,
America.
Yeah.
Okay, so Plato in his Timaeus and Critias, he talks about a place called Atlantis that exists off to the west of what he calls the Pillars of Heracles, but we call it the Straits of Gibraltar here. You go this way, and boom, you have this weird-looking thing that's under the water, but parts of it still stick out of the water. Okay, see that? And look, this is a triple fault line conjunction right here. So you can see there's a plate here, the American plate, a European plate, and an African plate. They all join up on this spot. And if you've ever played with paper mache and making your own piñatas, you can imagine a place like this where there's 3 plates intersecting. Do you think it would be very durable or squishy?
Well, it depends on if it's dried.
Real, at least.
Yeah, well, imagine it being more squishy because it's not hardened like pushing on this part of the plate would be, right? It's just crunchy and squishy. And so imagine a meteor hits or something happens that melts a bunch of ice. So the water levels go up, pressure increases on this area at the triple plate conjunction, and boom, suddenly it sinks really fast. And in the myth of Atlantis, it talks about it, the whole thing sinking in a day and a night with earthquakes. And so that might explain that. Now, why am I talking about Atlantis? Because you have all of these worldwide flood stories talking about this cataclysmic flood. I think this probably was at the end of the last ice age. I think this is probably our old continental shelf. And so all this stuff got flooded. And then whenever the Bible's talking about the whole earth, it's just kol ha'aretz. It's just saying the whole land. The ancient Israelite word for earth was just land. And so somebody writing down here, let's see, I guess Moses might have been in the desert when he's writing. But anyway, let's drop a little man here. Whoever's writing down here, they're just imagining looking off at, well, I can't see any land, and that's fine. That's just a wall.
It's a broken wall, too.
Some guy snuck in there to go pee and then took a picture.
There's a bunch of Arabic on the wall, it looks like.
Yeah.
We're getting kind of far away, but just imagine Kol Haaretz, the author's just imagining the whole land as far as he can see. And I, from one of Inspired Philosophy's videos, have started to think that look how this looks like the old continental shelf from the last ice age, and then the Persian Gulf fills up. Inspired Philosophy thinks the Garden of Eden was actually inside of here, and he talks about how you can with LiDAR or whatever see where there was rivers on this land that didn't used to all be flooded, and there might have even been some kind of land connection here that kept water out if it was below even the ice age ocean level. Now I've said all this as an armchair, internet user. I'm not an expert.
Your beard got complimented.
I don't think he's talking about me.
Yeah.
Christian's this whole time has been citing wackadoodles on YouTube, and it turns out he's just referencing things from his old videos.
All my citations just look like I have citations.
Are
really?
So that was interesting.
You can edit that out later.
That's fine. But you didn't actually answer the question of how did the Nephilim survive the flood?
Because it didn't kill them all. Actually, and I want to show one more thing. Yeah, because I don't think there was two different episodes of the sons of God coming down and sleeping with the daughters of men. Plato talks about how the only people that survived the flood were those who lived in the mountains. But you can see here in Greece, this whole area has like a similar culture and language, but it's split up by all these islands. And I think what happened was it was like one people group, but then it gets flooded. And then the ones who are in these mountains are just now living on islands. But yeah.
The Bible does say only 8 people survived.
Oh, okay. Well, there goes my theory. It was a good run.
Well, it's interesting though, because the people who came out of the ark lived in the mountains for a long time, and they went into more of the plains to build the city. But like, there's a city right next to where the ark may have landed, and then the timbers of like, where did the ark go? It was probably disassembled and made into housing. Crazy thought. You have waterproofed, nice quality timber. There's no other timber around you.
That makes way more sense than it just sitting at the top of a mountain until today.
Right. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to use that wood. I'm just going to repurpose it and build a waterproof house. Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah, so that's probably what happened. And then Babel happened right below them, so they traveled out from the mountains area to Babel, the entire Babel, and then.
That's the other thing I'm going to do. I've been thinking about this now. Once we hit it big, when we pass up Joe Rogan, all the money's coming in. First thing I'll buy is the T-Rex fossil, and then I'm making a house that's like an ark. I'm gonna live in an ark.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
That'd be so massive. Cool.
That would be one of the biggest mansions in the world, I think. I can't think of any mansion bigger than
gone to that exhibit where they
Kentucky
replicated it? Yeah.
All my family has, my extended family.
We're only like I think we're only like
all my family has, but they went without me. Yeah, I lived 45 minutes away from it. I never went. Now I live 7 hours away from it, and I'm not going unless we make it a family trip. So, but it wasn't open until right after I married my wife and moved.
Okay.
And my family went without me. So, yeah, too bad. But I've seen it. It's massive. If you had a house that size, that would be pretty impressive in and of itself. But how would you
I'll invite y'all over and give y'all some meteorite daggers.
It's true. It'd be pretty based. Yeah. Y'all should live stream in the Creation Museum. That would be pretty based.
That would be cool.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. The Ark is amazing, dude. It is truly crazy. Speaking of which, we can go through there a little bit.
What's the word for that? Teva or something?
Uh-huh.
The ark? Yeah, the vault.
That's the same word that they use for the basket they put Moses in,
Yep.
Yeah.
which is an interesting little literary connection.
Yep, the boat. Interestingly though, Arabic butchers it, and it uses the same word for the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh
So
boy.
Whoop.
in the Quran's version, Moses is not floating in a boat, a basket. He is floating in a coffin.
That's a conscious correction.
It's a conscious edit, yes,
Conscious
a
edit.
conscious edit that the Moses was floating in a metal box, a metal and stone box is what he was floating in according to the Arabic of the Quran, because they have a different word. The word that they use for Noah is the vaults. It's a homophone. It's the same word. So they use the same word for Noah, but they use the different word for Moses, and they replace it from the Hebrew and then use the same word for the Ark of the Covenant.
Wow.
And that word that they use for the Ark of the Covenant literally just means coffin. So
Is it a Hebrew cognate? It's
homophone
because
fly.
in Hebrew it's Aron, right? For the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
What was that?
That's what I
Hebrew
remember.
is Aron, and
Hmm.
so is the Arabic in the Quran, is it a cognate with that, or is it just the same? Is it just the same meaning of word?
I don't remember right off the top of my head.
That's a great question because you have to figure out how it mix the two. So the intermediary
Mm.
language would need to do it like English, but obviously it's not English. English didn't even exist then. So what's our intermediary? What is it in Syriac? You'd think Syriac would be just very similar to the Hebrew.
Mm.
Right. So it is tabots. It's al tabots ahad for the ark that he was floating, and then in for Noah it's al fulk or al fulk.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
F U
Chris! This is a
F U
Christian
L
channel.
K.
I know earlier it sounded like he was saying like bitches. Sorry. Then I was like, fuck, bitches. Like, what Hebrew are you speaking? It's the same Hebrew they yell at me when I drive on the highway.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so they have two different words for it, and one of them literally means ship, and the other one means coffin.
That sounded like the S word.
Ship, boat.
Sick of this bullshit.
Did you get commission for that in book sales? No. Anyway, not lonely or bored, but I'm here. That's Simon. It makes no sense for my audience. It's like, what are they on about?
Yeah.
The title of his stream is "Come Join Us If You're Bored or Lonely." So, anyway,
It starts talking about giants and Nephilim. It ends with us blowing ourselves up on a government building. This is how we lure you in. This is just
we
the
have
beginning.
jihad. Yeah. Then Yahweh saw that the evil of man was great. Yeah, that's a perfect segue there for what we were just talking about. On the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continuously. And Yahweh regretted that he had made man on the earth, and he had grieved in his heart. He was grieved in his heart. This is an interesting one only for open theism. The whole idea of if the future is settled or not, if God has perfect foreknowledge of the future, if he does he have free will? Because it would entail fatalism even for himself. Because if God has perfect knowledge of all future events, then he also has perfect knowledge of his future events, which means he is now a slave to his own knowledge. The fact that God can regret things seems to indicate that closed theism or classical theism, the Greeks' version of it, is not accurate, at least not biblical. But I'll eventually do a stream on my version of God's foreknowledge. But thoughts on that before I move on?
No, I'd be interested in that because that's stuff that's beyond my level of research. So I was interested in I'd only heard that terminology and that concept from you. So I figured it would be a better, it would be a good place for me to learn about it when you eventually do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Maybe we can just talk about it offline too a bit, but uh, I'm going to eventually just make a really long, in-depth video on it and my reason why I think it's biblical and why I don't think classical theism is biblical. Even though it is rhetorically powerful, and it is logically cohesive to prove mere deism, I don't think it actually gives you the biblical God from the logical arguments for it. But
My thoughts on it are, it's kind of hard to figure out how God interacts with creation, because if he exists outside of time and space, how is it that he could show up and talk to Moses in the burning bush, for example? And so I think the way that he interacts with us isn't necessarily an exhaustive description of the way he functions ontologically, but it's just it works within the narrative for us to understand his character and the way he wants us to understand him. And so I would interpret this as being like written for us. We're the intended audience. And he's trying to relate to us. And in human terms, this is the best way to express whatever it is he's trying to get us to grasp.
right. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can interpret it. That's definitely one of them. Is he's speaking to humans in ways we can understand. But yeah, I take a slightly more contrived way, but I do think it actually works out better for other passages of prophecy and how it can happen, both conditional and unconditional. Because otherwise, if you take a very strict view of the future is already settled, God becomes a liar in a couple passages of the Bible, and I don't want to make God into a liar. So
And
I'm
he
more
uses
towards
future
that.
Conditionals.
He does, but
Like David will
he
say,
also,
well, what happens if I do this? And God says, this and this will happen.
right, and then it doesn't happen. So
Right.
did God lie, or what? How do you interpret that? And I think the most logical way to interpret it is that the future is not 1,000% settled. It's like God knows all logical possible things, but it might not be logically possible for him to know with certainty the exact future that will happen. Then there's questions of what does prophecy mean? And again, that's gonna be the whole video. That's what the video will be about. But I do think it's more reasonable and less heretical than what other people claim. Just throwing that out there. But I had a couple questions. How much do Mandaeans influence Quran? Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would be an influence there. Even with the John the Baptist stuff, there it's more so just quoting or paraphrasing Luke rather than it is ripping away from that group. But search the meaning of gooning. Yes. It's,
That didn't even come up.
yeah. That's the title of my stream.
Oh, really? Let me see.
Yeah. I said, oh, you search it up.
Did you put the sons of God were gooning for the daughters of men?
Oh,
Pretty
boy.
much, yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, that's close enough. What do I do with God's immutability? So I would say God's immutability is not complete, exhaustive to all attributes within himself. Otherwise, God can't think. God can't have emotion. God cannot speak. And he does all of those things, clearly. So God is not totally immutable. Otherwise, God cannot think anything different than what he's currently thinking. And he's also outside of time if he's totally immutable because he cannot change from state to state. So you have an unthinking, unfeeling, unspeaking God that doesn't interact with humanity. That's the essential logical conclusions of classical theism. I would say that the immutability of God is in relation to his character, not in relation to all of his attributes. I reject divine simplicity. Anyway, again, I'll do a whole video on that. But, okay. So, and Yahweh said, I will blot out man, whom I have created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and to birds of the sky, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh, These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among those in his generations. Noah walked with God, and Noah became the father of 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them, and behold, I am about to destroy them with the earth. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood, and you shall make the ark with rooms, and you shall cover it inside and out with pitch. Now, that is Tavot. I thought it was, but Tavoa is, so they don't actually have a T there. But one thing I wanted to point out was,
Yeah.
Tiva.
Yeah.
This word is pretty funny.
Hamas.
Hamas. Yeah, violence in Hebrew is Hamas. And in Arabic, Hamas means valor or like bravery. So the terrorist group of Hamas named themselves after the bravery or the valor of it. And in Hebrew, they're called the men of violence. And there's all these passages of the Bible that talks about the men of violence. And some of them are like the men of violence live in the earth. So the idea of like them being in tunnels is just like, there's lots of passages in the Bible you could be like, oh, that's prophecy of Hamas, or like God knew that Hamas would come about eventually. And there's like, the earth is filled with Hamas, therefore God is going to annihilate them with his chosen people. It's pretty funny. There's like 20 or so passages with Hamas that it's like, I could see that. I could see that. So whether or not that's entire coincidence.
When I was first learning Hebrew when I was a teenager, and I read it and I was like, wait, did they do that on purpose? And then I thought, are they just called Hamas because that's what Israelis called them as bad guys, or did they name themselves that? I think I've even heard them saying that this was I don't know if it was them or if it was some other goofball Jew hater online saying that Israel purposely calls them that.
But Junior said Israel named them.
Oh, is that who it was? It was Junior. Okay, yeah, that's the one. I knew I had heard that stupid thing somewhere, and I should have immediately thought of Junior. Hitting grand slams of insanity in these last several months. I keep thinking, because it's weird, he kind of goes in and out of being almost likable.
Yep.
And like when he did the Triuine thing, and he even laughed.
Triuine, so good.
Because I thought this has got to be a joke, and then he laughed too. But then later on, he starts like cussing and saying all this crazy stuff, and it's like So, I mean, I guess he just really is that dumb. It's just weird. It's weird because, and like in evil, I guess. But sometimes you're like, wow, it would be fun to hang out with Junior and talk about stuff. And you're like, oh no, never mind. It would not be fun.
Yeah, you talk to him for a little bit, then you just change your mind. Same with Sneeko. Sneeko seems like a really chill dude. Then he says some outlandish stuff.
Yeah, he's an idiot. That guy.
Something interesting I saw earlier in the reading is there's a connection between all of creation and humanity. And whenever the humans are morally corrupt, God loses patience, not just with humans, but with all of creation. This is interesting, too, because it kind of parallels the way Jesus is ushering in a new creation, where it's not just us being redeemed from our sinful past, but all of creation is being redeemed in some way through Christ.
Yeah. Super based. And whenever he's about to come back, it says that the earth is groaning and that it's going to get worse. So we're going to see more natural disasters, more bloodshed, more chaos, almost as if like the earth itself is reacting to human sin, which is pretty cool. So you see that with the flood, like the little literal flood. Oh, so earlier you brought up, and I guess I could bring it up now. For the flood, do you take because the Bible does say that only 8 people survived the flood, do you take a global I take a global flood for a variety of reasons. You take a local flood for a variety of reasons. Do you take a local universal, or do you think people outside of the ark survived?
What is a local universal?
That all humans out not in the ark died, but that the flood was located in one location. So like all of humanity was only around the Garden of Eden and in Mesopotamia, which flooded. So humanity was not yet in China. Humanity was not yet in the Americas. Was not yet in Northern Europe. Whether or not it was Pangea or not, they were not there yet. So that all of humanity would have died in the flood, even with it being a local phenomenon.
I think there was little bits of survivors everywhere, but that contradicts your reading of the Bible. So I'll have to go back to the Bible and figure out how I square that with what I think.
Yeah, that's First Peter, I believe. Only 8 survived. Other First Peter or Second Peter? It's First Peter 3. I can bring it up. So First Peter 3:20. In which he also went and made proclamations to the spirits now in prison, who were once disobedient when the patience of God and kept waiting in the days of Noah during the construction of the ark, in which a few, that is 8 persons, were brought safely through the water.
Yeah, well,
So
that
you
doesn't
have-
mean no one else was either. He's talking about in the ark during the construction of
Right.
the ark, in which a few, that is 8 persons, were brought safely through the water. What's interesting here, though, too, is if you look above it, it's talking about spirits now in prison who once were disobedient. I think that ties in directly with this stuff we're talking about with Nephilim and sons of God.
Yeah. That's the Michael Heiser interpretation of it. The other interpretation is that these were the spirit beings that rebelled with Lucifer during the Great Rebellion, where a third of the angels were swept from the sky down to earth with the dragon, which we get in Revelation.
And then Jude is
Yeah.
a similar passage, too. And I think if you read the original Greek, it says that they're in Tartarus.
Right. Yeah. It's one of 2 places that Tartarus is used. Which is pretty interesting. Tartarus is an interesting usage for the lake of fire. Because Tartarus in the Greek mythology, because the New Testament also uses Hades for Sheol, so they use Tartarus for the lake of fire, and I think 1 or 2 other Greek terms.
And then
But
Hades
Tartarus,
for Sheol. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
You just said that, yeah.
yeah, and then Gehenna, but Gehenna is from Aramaic/Hebrew because it's Gen Edam, so it's the garden,
Hold on, Chris. I need to interrupt you real
Gehinnom.
quick.
the valley of Hinnom.
Chris, what's important about 8 in Hebrew thought?
It is not completion. It's the one right after.
Wouldn't it be
What
like
is-
eternity or outside of time?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'cause
so after
Jesus
the
is
7 days, 8 is kind of
the-
connected with new creation because it's a new
Yeah.
week. And so
Yeah.
that's when the baby's foreskin is cut off because it's the promise of, future creation. And it's interesting that 8 persons are saved in the flood event, which is kind of like a new creation because everything has to start over again. And the waters, they survive through the waters. It's kind of like in Genesis 1, the waters splitting, or in Exodus where the waters split and a new nation is created.
Right.
It's interesting. 8 pops up with new creation.
Well, you also have an interesting narrative within Egyptian theology. So let me bring this up. This is going to be for people who are extreme nerds. So I'm sorry if you're not an extreme nerd, you're going to have to deal with it. But these are the 8 folk that are said to start the ancient dynasty. And it just so happens that the males have very similar names to the biblical males of Genesis,
Wow.
including Noah. So all 3 of the 4 are directly related with Ham and what are the other names?
Shem and
Ham and-
Japheth.
Yeah, I meant in the Egyptian, not in the
The Egyptians.
Hebrew.
Do they
Yeah,
have fish heads?
I think a couple of them do. Those are snakeheads there. So I think it's fishes and snakes. But these are the 8 deities that are the demigods who created the rulers, the pharaohs, that had a long lifespan. So these deities lived to be hundreds or thousands of years old. And the children of these deities also lived to be hundreds of years old, and those were the ones who established the pharaoh line, who established Egypt, who were the first like ancient dynasty that most Egyptologists put into the mythological era, but it just so happens to line up really well with Genesis. So you do have stuff like this for evidence of 8 people surviving the ark, and it says that they came out of floodwaters. But granted, floodwaters are all over ancient Egyptian mythology. You can, rationalize that away, but it does say that there was a great flood that these 8 individuals came out of, and their names loosely line up with the biblical version.
Plato originally got the story of Atlantis from Egyptians in a city called Sais. So there was a guy who lived 200 years before Plato named Solon who visited Sais and spoke to the Egyptian priests there. And he got the story of Atlantis from those people, and then brought that story to Greece, and that's where Plato got it from. So it's actually, if Plato is correct, it's an Egyptian story in its origin.
Based. I'm looking up the names real quick so you can compare them. There's a lot of interesting similarities between them.
Something weird that Plato says is he records when Atlantis sunk, and he says that it was 9,000 years ago. And so you do 2,000 years ago to get to, AD BC divide, and then you go another 400 years. And so you end up 2,000 plus 9,000 is 11,000 plus the 400 years for when Plato lived. You end up at 11,400 years ago, which is right around the time of meltwater pulse 1b. And so he's saying that this big flood happened, and then later geological stuff is telling us, oh, yeah, so a whole bunch of ice melted and the water levels went way up. It's like, geez, what are the chances of guessing that right? It might be total myth, might be totally made up, but that's an astounding coincidence.
Yeah, it really is. So we have Nu for Noah, He, Kech, and Imon for the 4 male names, and the female names are just the counterparts of the males. These are the Ogdod, if I pronounce that horribly, sorry. But this is the primordial deities worshipped in Hermopolis.
And the women are all
for this
anonymous
dynasty
in the Bible, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Nu lines up with Noah. What does Kek line up with? Shem, maybe?
Shem,
No, maybe Shem is Amunet.
Their names also have specific meanings,
Uh-huh.
and the words roughly relate to them. So Shem
That
is
would
the name glory, and then Imon is the hidden of name, or heaven or something. Japheth, and then He for wide open and for searching for the Egyptian, or treading. And then Ham means black, and Kech, I believe, means darkness. Yeah.
Oh,
so you have black, darkness, open searching, and then name and hidden of name. And then Noah, like, that's pretty.
How would you hit on a girl named Ogdod if you met her?
But they were the frog male deities for all the spicy frogs out there. If you know, you know.
Well, one's named Kek, too. Isn't that like?
Yeah. There you have the Kek frog, yes. And the coquettes for the snake version of that.
Did any of the women have cat ears?
In Egyptian theology, yes, but of those 8, no.
Okay.
Wow, so they have frog heads, like an amphibian with water and land. That's super interesting.
Frog heads don't pop up, but I've seen fish heads pop up in a lot of like other, ancient human pictures. What did that last comment say? I didn't get to see.
He's asking me where evolution. So wudu comes from the Talmud. Just straight Talmud. Like, it's very, 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 very similar wording.
I was getting the Mandeans mixed up with the Manichaeans.
Yeah,
like that thing that Augustine used to be.
Oh yeah, no,
different
belief system. Yeah, but the wudu comes straight from the Talmud. It's not even like not only is it the same type of bathing that you do, but it's also the same exceptions on when you can do it and when you cannot do it. And there's both the requirement of clean dirt if you don't have access to water. Specifically clean dirt of the high ground, not the low ground, because the low ground collects more disgustingness. So the high ground is technically cleaner, which, hey, the Jews got that right. Congrats. But dirt is not clean. It's dirty. Imagine that. Anyway. Yeah, so we do have that for like the 8 people narrative of if this does literally mean 8 persons survived. It is interesting that we have a place local to the area where it's 8 persons who are surviving, and the names somewhat match up. Like Noah matches up quite well, but the other 3 don't match up that well.
Mhm.
I mean, you can get a loose parallel, but it's a bit more of a force thing. So it's like if the tradition survived from the Tower of Babel, but it was corrupted slowly over time, you can see remnants of it within the Egyptian mythology, both the long lifespans and the establishment of deities, like deities. And granted, if my grandfather, if my great 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 grandfather was still alive, I would think he was some kind of special being too, especially if my great granddad was dead.
Mhm.
I don't know. So
Well,
maybe
and
that's
also
why
with
they
them
thought they
being
were gods.
frogs, like a land and water blend lifestyle thing. That's
Same
pretty
with snakes,
interesting
yeah.
too.
Yeah. They're amphibious.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's definite symbology there.
It's dirty.
Dude, dirt is
Yeah.
so dirty.
Dirt is very dirty, man. It's crazy. It
And it
be like
doesn't
that
matter how
sometimes.
much you wash it either. I've tried.
It's true. It's true. And he brings up this. So Nathaniel Janison, he works with Answers in Genesis, but he also did a project in the human genome. It's called Traced. He had wrote a book called Traced. He went through thousands of volunteers for their DNA and traced their Y chromosomal haplogroups to variety of subsets, and we can actually trace it back to about 3 to 4 individuals. So by Jansen, thank you. By his work, if he is accurate, which I've looked at some of his data and it does look mostly accurate, you can actually take a DNA test with him and his team and know which of the sons of Noah you come from,
Oh
which is
wow.
pretty based. But
I'm from that Scottish one, whoever he was. The one that had a kilt on.
Anyway, so that's not Genesis. That's Genesis. I was like, where's my Hebrew? All right. For the dimensions, talking about your mansion, 300 cubits in length. If I can scroll to the right location, my goodness. Okay. Where's
300 of these. That's a cubit, right?
There it is. All right. Now this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark is 300 cubits and 450 feet or so. Stupidly long. Very, very long. Its breadth 50 cubits and its height's 30 cubits. So this thing is like 450, 80 or so, and 50 or so in dimensions. And it's a giant rectangular object. Interestingly, these dimensions are the perfect dimensions for buoyancy. So God just so happened to make perfect ship dimensions by desert dwelling folk a really long time ago. But this, according to engineering, according to mathematics, is the best dimensions you can get for a ship. Ours is
That's very interesting.
slightly altered from this in modern because we use not wood, but we use like aluminum / titanium / steel. So we have various frames that are buoyant in a different way than wood is. So instead of using this perfect wood one, we have slightly altered version, especially because we have propulsion on it, not sails and not like oars. So this is very close to what we still use today for boats, but this is even better for a wooden boat if you were to just float. So this is an extremely well-designed floating vessel by the author of Genesis.
You want that height, not as high, otherwise it'll flop over.
Yep. So this is very well designed. So all the people are like, oh, no, good God. And it's like, well, he at least knows how to make boats extremely well. And if it's like, oh, well, these guys are just like desert dwelling, like they accuse the Jews of being what the Muslims typically are now. Not gonna go into specifics with that, but do with that what you will. And it's like, well, there's still stuff like this in it. There's still like the soap recipe. There's still the earth floating on nothing in Job. It's like there's a lot of statements that appear to be advanced in knowledge, at least beyond what the authors of the text should have been able to come up with. Same with like the bread recipe of Ezekiel. The exact grains in that bread recipe supplies every single vitamin and nutrient you need to continue to live. So it's one of the only foods you can eat daily and just live forever
Did
because it covers all your bases.
Did y'all's moms ever buy that stuff called Ezekiel bread?
Yeah, I
No.
didn't like it.
Man, I got some of that open because I wanted to be healthy. It tasted like poop, man. It was so bad. Golly.
There
I've
goes
had
our
some before. I've
endorsement.
not enjoyed it, dude. Yeah.
You said you live forever eating it. That'd be hell. I don't want to eat that and live forever. I'd rather die.
Imagine the boat insurance on that bad boy.
It might reduce the rates that the proportions are all perfect. Like,
I've never enjoyed spilts or any of those like really hard, nasty grains that like goats eat. And it's like,
my buddy was like, yeah, they ate that because they were under siege. And so they had to eat that gross bread. All the good bread was gone. Like,
right. Absolutely. There you go. Yeah. So you shall make a window for the ark and complete it to 1 cubit from the top and set the door of the ark and the side of it. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. As for me, behold, I am bringing the flood of water upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life from under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall breathe its last. But I will establish my covenant with you. Yeah, massive instead of hiccups. And you shall enter the ark, and you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. And every living thing under all flesh, you shall bring 2 of every kind into the ark to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. It's kind, not species. Of the birds after their kind, of the animals after their kind, of every creeping thing on the ground after its kind, 2 of every kind will come with you to keep them alive. As for you, take for yourself some of all food which is edible, and gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and for them. Thus Noah did according to all God commanded them, so he did. We have no idea how long it took him to do this. Some exegetes is 100 years. Other exegetes is significantly longer. But he seems to have gotten the account whenever he was 500 and gotten off of the ark when he was 600, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
You have 100 years there. Then Yahweh said to Noah, enter the ark, you and your household, for you alone I have seen to be righteous before me in this generation. You shall take with you every clean animal by 7s, a male and his female, and of every animals that are not clean, 2, a male and his female. And also the birds of the sky by 7s, male and female, to keep their seed alive on the face of all the earth. For after 7 more days I will send rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out from the face of the land every living thing that I have made. Now, a lot of people interpret this as being the first time it floods. I've gone over my difficulties with that in the past streams. Do with that what you will. We're not going into the whole that which shall not be named because we keep talking about it. So, and Noah did according. It may have been, yes. Okay. Fecal matter. And Noah did according to all that Yahweh had commanded him. Now Noah was 600 years old when the flood of water came upon the earth. Then Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him entered the ark because of the water of the flood, of clean animals and animals that are not clean, and birds and everything that creeps on the ground. By 2s they came to Noah's ark. By 2s they came into the ark. Male and females God had commanded Noah. Now it had happened after the 7 days that the water of the flood came upon the earth. So it took 7 days for him to get everyone on board and safely in there. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, on this day, all the foundations of the great deep split open, and the floodgates of the sky were opened. So the idea here is that the thicker atmosphere that held more moisture were caused to fully rain, fully collect, and fully drop. So all of the massive, if you do take the the pre-flood worldview of the firmament and a heavy greenhouse gas atmosphere that's very wet and like constantly 75 degrees and just nice feeling. So you can just walk around nude, which is probably why they made so many babies. That would be ended at this location from that. That's one interpretation of this. The other interpretation is just he just made it like flood really hard. Or you can say this is a mythological usage, is not literal. So you can mythicize this, you can make it extremely literal, or you could do a combination thereof.
Before we talk about poop again, I think I'm gonna go ahead and go to sleep. I'm exhausted. But
Okay.
you enjoy continuing talking about people walking around naked and nerdy science stuff, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, you two keep it real. I'll see y'all next time.
Good
See ya.
night, Mr. Gadfly.
Okay. I'm going to go attend to a live stream if you want to talk about this while I
Oh
am
boy.
gone. There you go. Your time to shine.
Okay. Well, I'm no quality host, so I am completely unprepared. And that's why I have this speech I've written in German for us to go. No. uh, my monitor, the thing I use to monitor, is got a bit of a delay, and I don't have the Bible pulled up. But if you want to send in your questions, your super chats, and if you tag my name there, all the money will go to me. Chris has made this promise, and then I will use that money to make my own channel to take Chris's channel down. And I always kind of wait for these moments when he has to go to the bathroom so I could continue to feed you guys the little bits and parts of my plan. But that's step one. Step two is for me to get a giant house in the shape of a boat from which to do my live streams. And eventually, I intend to use my boat to go to Chris's house and then triumphantly stick my flag in his front yard and then insist that he has to leave and I get his house along with my boat. So that's kind of the plan in the nutshell. And next week, next Monday, I'll give you a little bit more of the how-tos for you all to participate in helping me succeed in this endeavor, because we don't get a lot of time. And it was a really big rainstorm. Woof, lots of rain. Right, Chris?
The big rainstorm from the flood? Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
very rainy.
It was indeed rainy. It once rained for 2 weeks where I used to live, and it flooded half the city. So I can imagine if it rained for 40 days, it would flood. If it rained everywhere for 40 days, I could definitely see it easily flood the earth. You also have things like the trench, like the Great Sea Trench. The name is escaping me for some reason right now. Why can't I think of that name? Not Final Fantasy. Come on now. Marinaya? No, it's not the one I was thinking of. The Challenger Deep is the one I was more thinking of. But there's a couple different massive sea trenches. It's the one that what's his face was thrown in at the end of Transformers.
Well, I haven't seen the Transformers movies.
Megatron. The one that Megatron was thrown into at the end of the second movie or something like that. That trench. Is it the one for the anyway. That trench there is the one that probably opened up during this event, and that was the great floodwaters of the deep splitting open. Yeah. You have that. You also have a bunch of groundwater that could have opened up. Like, the Earth contains significantly more water within the crust than people realize. And if all of that was released and the Earth also was less mountainous, because I don't believe Pangea split until after the flood or during the flood. I can see that. You have no idea what you're saying now. Well, I mean, it is slightly late for me, but I'm in. Thanks, McCain, for the super chat. But anyway, so if you read the Broken Planet model, you will know. I have not read that, but I do know my position. I can go through that, and I can also go through some of the problems in the flood narrative. If you guys want to carefully examine the evidence, I do think there's a piece of evidence that's extremely, extremely difficult for both sides to account for. So we'll go through that in a little bit. Or I guess I could go through that now while people are interested in it. The one piece of evidence for all you young Earth creationist, global floodist, there is one piece of evidence. I guess let me not spoil the surprise. I do not think is very easy to explain. This is going to be extremely nerdy, but in my encounters, I am an engineer by trade. I do STEM research. Super secret, Chris. Yes, indeed. So this one,
Before you waste all of your time, Chris, on all this silly knowledge, you could just read the Broken Planet model.
it's fair. Yeah. Because the Broken Planet model is the only explanation that actually works. Yeah. Yeah. To be fair, I lean young Earth creationist. This is hard to explain. So on the surface of the floor of the ocean, we have all of these little lines. That's actually what they kind of look like. So if we look at the crust, we see in the deposits, the iron is going in opposite directions. This is a very strange anomaly. It's strange because you would expect it to all face in one direction or the other, not for it to be flip-flopping. So this is like south-north, north-south, south-north, north-south. And these were created while the crust was being stretched. Or they were created in place if you're a young Earth creationist. But we also believe that Pangea existed. So if Pangea existed, and it spread out, the spreading, stretching, everything else caused these bands to happen. The problem is, this appears to be influenced by the sun, and the sun goes through magnetic reversals all the time. So I can see if I can pull up a GIF of it. It's pretty cool. We go from this state of north-south to south-north, and it actually like flip-flops every 6 months or so. Let's see if I can pull up a GIF. This is pretty cool. Yeah, there it goes.
Oh, wow.
So this would be the Earth's polarity as it adjusts to the sun. This is the data that we have for it. And the reason why the Earth is doing that is because of the sun doing this, which, let's see if I can actually grab it. But that's basically the north and the south. And then because of the double layering effect of plasma, plasma can actually have north-south bands and south-north bands hover around each other. And that's actually how it creates what's called Birkeland currents, which are coaxial cables that are sending north-south going this way and south-north going this way. So it has bands of plasma, because plasma is self-organizing, is ionized gas. And whenever something becomes ionized, it becomes magnetic. And this is self-organizing structure within ionized gas. So all plasmoids have this level of double layering that creates structure and order. The structure and order is mostly temporary, and as you have energy leave the system, it starts to lose some of that stability, and it goes through these periods of reversal. And where there is no such thing as a north or a south for the magnetic field of the sun, you actually just have this kind of nonsense chaos, where it goes from north-south to south-north. And it's kind of all over the place. Then eventually it stabilizes again and goes back to north-south. It goes through the cycle every so often. Whenever this happens, earthquakes happen, and there's actually been researchers who have timed major earthquakes on the planet based on the sun's axis. So here's the actual GIF. See if I can open that. No, I can't. All right, so this is pretty much what it looks like. It just flip-flops and it becomes all sorts of garbled and crazy. This is pretty interesting, and that seems to be the explanation for this stripping passage. If that is, it's incredibly hard for this to happen during a young Earth event. If you say that the crust was expanding only a couple years or even like a couple decades, I don't think you have the amount of time needed to produce the patterns that we actually observe on the planet. So that is one thing I think is legitimately difficult. You also have certain silt deposits on some riverbeds that are also fairly hard to describe with the old Earth or the young Earth model. There's other things that old Earth people point to that I think is readily explainable, like ice cores. I think actually more favor young Earth creationism than it does old Earth creationism. But this one, I don't understand because I've studied plasma physics for a decent bit of my life. I don't see how this could be done in a young Earth model. Now, again, I lean young Earth. I think it probably happened in that way. I don't know how. I have no physical mechanism in which this could happen that I'm aware of. So, this would be my evidence against the global flood of the young Earth model. But also, okay, if it happened less than one day, then you also have to say that the sun was doing it, or you have to say that the dynamo of the planet. So, like, the Earth's core is magnetic; it's iron, which is also why the Earth does this. Not only is our iron core moving and circling and doing all these things, you also have the sun affecting it as well, because our plasmasphere is directly tied to the sun with a Birkeland current. So whenever the sun has any form of imbalance, you also Stephen just fell off. We also have the Earth doing
My
this
pop
as well.
sockets. Pop.
And even with the meteor impact, you still wouldn't get the same type of domino effect that you would need. Even if you say like, okay, the meteor hit the planet, that would cause all life to cease to exist anyway. First off, if a meteor hit the planet strong enough to affect the polar activity within the Earth, that would be so strong that you wouldn't have an Earth left. I don't think that actually explains this. But we also don't have a meteor impact from the Bible either. But I mean, I'll read the thing, but I would be surprised if a meteor impact actually happened because we have no evidence of it that I'm aware of. Anyway, 6 screens over. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So that is my primary evidence against the young Earth view of it. My primary evidence for it would be a variety of things, a wide variety of things. I don't actually need to bring most of the stuff up on screen. I can just spit it out. I spit facts. You have the great unconformity. So for those who don't study geology, the unconformities are periods of time within the rock layers where there's a massive gap in history. So if you say that rock layers are laid down through a uniformitarianism viewpoint where nothing ever changes, it's all just gradual change from one year to another year. So you have like 2 main thoughts for geology. You have the cataclysmic model and you have the gradualism model or the universalitarianism model, where the past has happened in the same way repeatedly throughout history with no major changes in how it was done. That view means that you can only have one rock layer laid down slowly per year or per every couple of years. So you would look at a rock column, a geologic column, and there is unconformities within that geologic column. And I can actually bring one up that we are studied quite extensively from the Grand Canyon. Well, that looks like trash. Let me see if I can get a better resolution of it. Wow, that just kills it. Oh, no, that's better. So within this group, you can notice that these are millions of years over here and the thickness. And you jump from one rock layer to another rock layer. And when you actually look at the rock layers themselves, there is no clear distinction whenever one rock layer ends and another one begins. Man, these I just want the good quality, man. So this rock layer here, if you notice, like if you go and look at these in person, which I don't know how many of you have, but there's like a millimeter difference between one rock layer and the next. Yeah, it says that for some of these distinctions from like this, like limestone to the shale, from these two types of rock layers, they might say, oh, it's like 5 million years of time. And then you go down and it's like, okay, this one's jumping another 5 million. That one's jumping 20 million. That one's jumping 45 million. That one's jumping 200 or 120 million years, 10 million years. That one's jumping 200 million years. That one's jumping 130 million years. And then this one from here to here, this is the great unconformity. This one is 500 million years old, according to, I believe, uranium thorium dating or uranium lead dating. We have 525 million years. This one is 1.6 billion years old. That's over 1 billion years of time between this group and that group. The Vishnu rocks are what's called bedrock. It's non-sedimentary rock. It is magmic rock. It's rock that was formed through magmic activity. The Tonto group is sedimentary rock. It's rock that was laid down by water or by air. Most likely water, because we have ooids in it, and ooids are only formed in water. So we have water laid down rock on top of base rock that was formed through magmic activity. There's 1 billion years of time between the two. I don't see how this could be possible, even with fault lines, even with slips, even with all that. I took geology in college. I understand the rational explanation. Some of it is just like, we don't know. But I don't see how this could be from the old Earth model. And it's not just this, it's also the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrian layer, mind you, is in this type of base rock for the Precambrian. So the Precambrian is these two groups of rocks here. This green rock has the lowest life forms imaginable. It's single-celled organisms, very simple life. The blue rock has all the complex life you can imagine. Out of like the 24 base body plans that exist and within life, like 18 of them spawn into existence overnight in the blue group, in the Cambrian layer of rock. So the Precambrian has basically no life. The Cambrian has pretty much all life. So it goes from nothing to everything instantaneously. That doesn't really make any sense from the naturalistic perspective, but even from the evolutionist, like theistic evolutionist perspective, I don't see how that makes sense. I don't see how that works. So you have the great unconformity and the some of the stuff with the ice cores, because the ice cores themselves don't really work super well from the old Earth view, because you have volcanic activity within the ice cores that would had to have lasted for like thousands of years at a time. And that just doesn't make any sense. So I can bring that up if you guys are interested in ice cores. But it's pretty neat. So these things right here.
Giving our friend Gary a heart attack.
I might, it's fine. So this dark layer is volcanic ash. That's what it kind of looks like inside of an ice core. These ice cores are supposed to be like, I think it's like 0.1 millimeters thick per year or so. And the deeper it goes into it, the shorter the time span is supposed to be, because the density squishes it. So this is too thick at this point in time to be actually from a volcanic activity that was long spread. So a lot of this is just like dirt. It goes through cycles of, okay, that was a volcanic eruption. That was a volcanic eruption. That was one. That was one. That was one. This is a super deep, dark one. And there's not that many over in this side. Well, the deeper you go, there's a lot of these that are still really thick that make no sense from.
Well, not again.
Constantly emitting soot into the atmosphere for like thousands of years at a time. Logically, to me, that doesn't seem like it is realistic. But, do with that what you will. There are, in my opinion, problems with that and with the ice cores and what we actually observe inside of them. But yeah, you have a lot of different things for the old Earth problem. Yeah. You also have like, oh well, it can't be laid down that well. It's like, oh well, there was a plane in Greenland that got like completely covered in like I think it was 150 feet of ice within from like World War II till the 80s. So in like 40, 50 years, it was entirely covered in ice by a lot amount. So ice is not consistent in how much is supplanted every single year.
Hmm.
Because again, uniformitarianism is kind of trash. What are the arguments for OAC that you think are plausible? OEC. What in the world is OEC? I've not heard that acronym before.
Old Earth creation.
Oh, is that it? That's
That's
interesting.
be my guess.
That would be my guess as well. Now that you say that, I've never actually heard someone use that as an acronym. My arguments for old Earth creationism would pretty much be that is there are some things that are very difficult to explain within the young Earth paradigm that would have to be it was AOC's fault. Beyond that, man, that's really it. Like you have some sediment deposits. You have. I actually don't think that the age of biological organisms is that impressive. To be honest, I don't think radiometric dating is that impressive for a wide variety of reasons. But I don't think it's the most accurate of methods to date things, especially whenever you go that far back in history. Same with Starlight. I don't think Starlight is actually that good of a resource to date things for a very, very lengthy, long tangent reason that we don't really need to get into. If you look at the James Webb Space Telescope data that came out, there's they measure things by standard candles and by redshift. That's how they get distance. The distance of parallax effect, where you can your eyes, because as a distance between them, you can get distance based on the angle, and your brain does quick math on the fly to get how far away something is as it's approaching you. That works, and if you have observers on a long enough scale, you can actually get really accurate distances for a lot of things. The way we'd use this to measure things in the universe is we take one picture on June, we take another picture in January. So when we're on opposite sides of the sun, we're taking pictures of the same constellation. So you get a solar unit of distance for your parallax distance to see and take an angle to then do the math to figure out a distance. The problem is that becomes inaccurate after 1 light year. So all these things are supposed to be millions of years, like millions of light years away, cannot possibly even imagine it. Like even 2 light years is inaccurate using that system. But we use that system mixed with redshift and standard candles in order to establish distances. The Space Telescope came back a couple of years ago, and they came up with data that is anomalous to that model. Not only were the farthest distance galaxies fully formed, which is not expected whatsoever, it's actually the opposite of what they were expecting, but you also have redshifted objects that are closer than objects that were less redshifted with the same brightness. That shouldn't be possible.
Mm.
So based on their model, the data just doesn't really work super, super well for all that stuff. But oh, you wrote the book, Gary? Or I'm curious.
Yeah, I think that's what he's
Is this your book? Oh, he
very
did write the book. Okay.
enthusiastically.
That's why he's so enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, the cosmos does have both colors. So the way I actually interpret the colors is based on the youthfulness of it, not the distance or type of motion. Because plasmoids that are young exhibit redshifted spectra because they're highly energetic. So highly energetic systems cause redshift as well. Anyway, so he's saying that he received a vision of God, and that's why he knows what happened. Okay. I'll read your book. I'll give you a shot. But that's my problems with old Earth creationism is we don't really have a great reason to believe it. And there's some difficulties with both positions. So no matter what age of the Earth you want to take, there's going to be something that's hard to explain. Now, I don't think it's impossible to explain. I think it's just hard to explain. So I'm slightly more of a fence sitter, but I do lean towards the young Earth because I think it makes good sense of a lot of the data. But yeah. Anyway, thoughts on that?
No, I think I have a lot of a simpler position, which is just it seems like the Bible says so, and that was suitable for me when I think of, and I mean I have done not anywhere near the amount of research you've done, but I've done enough research where I look at things and I say, okay, enough of this. I can see it being lining up with what the Bible says, and so I don't really. It's not kind of a point of interest for me after that. Uh, but so that's my take. The simple man's take. Seems like Bible said so, so that's what Bible says.
As my dad says, he's too dumb to doubt. So he just goes with it. Yeah. I'm assuming your name is still Wentz. Yep. All right. It's on Amazon. 156 pages. Sure. I'll read it. Go through that a bit later. Based Stephen, indeed. Based Stephen, indeed. Yeah. Okay. So, in the 600th year, we went through that. Then the rain came upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. On this very day, Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, entered the ark. They and every beast after its kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every fowl, every winged creature. So they came to Noah into the ark by twos of all flesh, in which was the breath of life. Fish did not need to be saved because they do not have the breath of life. All those that entered, male and female, and all flesh, entered as God had commanded him, and Yahweh closed it behind him. Super, super based. God is the one that closes it behind them. And in the Aramaic, it says that the word of God, the memra of Yadonai, or it has the Yod Vav Yod, so the memra of Yahweh, is the one that closed them in. So you actually have Jesus being the one that closes them into the ark and seals it, which is pretty cool. But do a stream on his book or on the model? I mean, I can. People are interested. Or if I find it interesting, I will.
We could read the whole thing on a stream. We just
Yeah.
take turns with every sentence, Chris. We'll get a good steady rhythm down and
Based. Okay. So, where is that? Okay, my wife is not happy. That's fine.
oh no.
Then
What'd you do this time, Chris?
unrelated to me. Unrelated to
Oh.
me. So not my fault. Okay. So then the flood came upon the earth for 40 days, and the waters multiplied and lifted up the ark. So as far as people are like, oh well, all the animals can't fit in the ark. Couple things to that. One, they would have probably taken juveniles or babies, creatures that would become sexually mature after a year. And it's like, oh well, what about all the creatures that are their lifespan's less than a year? It's like, well, either they reproduced in the ark or God froze them in time. As far as like all the people, oh, how do they manage poop? How do they manage water? How do they manage food? It's like, well, there was a very intricate system set up, and the Creation Museum's Ark in Kentucky has accounted for all of that. But I'm also perfectly fine just saying God froze them in time for a year. I don't think there's any like why are you throwing out the miraculous? The whole thing is miraculous already. Why do you need like a naturalistic explanation for the ark? And it's like, if you're already accepting the flood and all the things that come with it, why do you need naturalistic explanations for how they manage poop or water?
And notice this is a few years before the Super Nintendo was created, so there was a lot of ability to do things on the Ark because they weren't busy with video games. I think that's coming up, right? That part, or did we miss it already?
The Super Nintendo.
It's pretty old.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's true. Making me feel like an old man. Anyway. My parents got rid of my Super Nintendo. I'm still kind of sad about it.
I think I
saw
got
the
that
Sega, though.
as a Christmas present in 1994. No, maybe. No. We had it before that. We had it 93. That might have been when we got it.
Do you want to post your link directly into the chat, not with the dot? Because if you post it with the dot, then no one can see it. Just put the root of it. Anyway. So the water prevailed and multiplied greatly upon the earth, and then the ark went on the surface of the water. And the water prevailed more and more upon the earth, so that all the high mountains under the heavens were covered. This is the one that I think is hard as a localist. The water prevailed 15 cubits higher, and the mountains were covered. So 15 cubits, like 20 feet or so, of all the earth was covered in water. So it became back a ball of water. It started a ball of water and it came back to being a ball of water, which logically, if it started a ball of water and God caused the waters to recede, he could then uncause them to recede and recover everything. Not really a crazy thought there. But if in Genesis 1, it's a giant ball of water and he goes back to it not being like crazy. Anyway, if you empty all the trenches, or if you like fill all the trenches of the ocean, you actually do cover most of the land. So if you then take all the atmosphere and put it down to where there's no water in the atmosphere, you then have the entire earth covered in water. It's not that difficult to get a global flood from that view. You just have to say God deliberately shifted up the ocean floor a bit. But just nope. Again, I'm telling you my perspective. You don't have to keep spamming nope the entire time. My guy. For those who are curious, dude, Gary the Gospel Guy, and you can read his book on Amazon.
I think he wants us to read his book right now.
I think he wants us to read it right now. Yes. Dude, I can't stop. I mean, you can. It's definitely an option. Anyway. So you have that, and I think that is actually pretty hard to use for the local flood view. If you say, oh, this is just hyperbole, or God is just talking about that region, it's like, well, the water is going over the mountains. So unless God is setting up a, like, help me, Spock. Unless God is setting up like a barrier that's invisible, that's keeping all the water in. Yeah, don't encourage him to just keep spamming no. Unless God is doing that, I don't see how it can work in the young Earth view, or not the local flood view, and the all flesh that moved on the earth breathed last. Again, you are, if you're not taking this literally and you're just mythicizing all of it, then words don't have meaning. Because the Bible seems to be very clear here that it is repeatedly affirming that everything died. And it does it to an extent that it stops being realistic to be a hyperbole. This is different from other hyperbole in the Old Testament, such as like oh, go and slaughter all of the Amalekites, don't leave man, woman, or child or animal, or just kill it all. And then you see Amalekites like 20 years later
I've
described in
heard
the
that.
Bible.
I've heard people describe that as being hyperbole, and I think uh, I don't think you have to take it that way.
I don't
I
think you
see
have
it
to
as a
either.
because I feel like a lot of people are uncomfortable with the idea that God was to say that, and so that's kind of a way for them to not feel so uncomfortable. But I think
Right.
it sounds straightforward enough to be straightforward. If it, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. I don't take
Right.
it as hyperbole, and it doesn't bother me because it's uh, God can do what He wants. Basically, I is
Right.
my view. Uh,
Right.
but I do think it is like something to consider the hyperbole idea of that statement. But that's not on topic
Right.
to the flood, so
But
I
if
don't know
that
why
is
I said
hyperbole,
that.
that's only mentioned
Oh, right.
once. So that's a bit of
Mm,
the description. So like this one is mentioned like 10 times that everything dies. And it is covering the whole face of the earth and all these things. Like it
and why would you go to the work of
reaffirms this
preserving
over.
local animals?
Right, yeah.
Mm,
It goes over and over and over and over again, and it does this. So that seems to be less hyperbole and more like just matter of fact. Now you can still mythicize all of this. You can just mythicize the first 11 chapters of Genesis. I don't
mm,
think you need to though. As an intellectually fulfilled Christian, I don't think you need to. I think there
mm,
actually is evidence for a lot of these positions and beliefs. And there's actually evidence against the other positions and beliefs that are hard to tackle. I do think both positions have difficulties, and we need to be able to be humble about that and not go too far of, oh, everyone who believes in young earth is a heretic, everyone who believes in old earth is a heretic, those people are stupid, these people are stupid. Like, you don't have to go to those extremes. You
uh,
probably know significantly less than you think you do. I know significantly less than I think I do, and that's okay. We're not supposed to know everything.
mm-hmm.
Shocker. Anyway, um, yeah, yeah. So they were big time evil. I got no issues with that with the killing of the
Yeah,
Amalekites.
it is
Yeah,
incredibly. I mean, and we don't even know.
right.
We have hints and traces of how terrible it was, and it was very terrible. And I imagined it was much worse uh, when it was happening
Right.
than we know about. Impressively wicked stuff.
Indeed, it's quite awful. So because of that, God killed everything for the flood, and He also killed all of those people. And both of these generations were doing similar things. Yeah. All in Council of YouTube has spoken. Old Earthers are anathema.
Sahih.
No, I do think you can be an old earther and be a Christian. I'm not saying that they're heretical. I just don't agree with their conclusions or their assumptions, presuppositions. So, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life, and all of that was on the dry land died. Thus he blotted out every living thing that was upon the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and to birds of the sky, and they were blotted out from the earth, and only Noah remained, and those that were with him in the ark. And the water prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So again, I think this language is hard to interpret as local and as figurative. But
Mm.
yeah.
And
Then
it
God
just,
remembered Noah
doesn't
and
seem like the text requires it for any. It's just seems pretty straightforward. And also, Chris,
right.
if I am interrupting you, I think there might be a slight delay, so I apologize for
That's fine.
chiming in when it's this time it's not my fault. I'm not
No,
doing it on
man,
purpose
you're
this time.
supposed to chime in. People want to hear your opinion in your beard. Yes. Time to schism for the heretical council of YouTube. It is not a valid YouTube council. Oh, that's great. So, Then God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, and God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. Interestingly, there's a wind that passes over the Red Sea to dry it. So we still have this like wind passing down. So you have a language of the recreation, the rebirth of Israel out of Egypt into the promised land, and also all of humanity coming out of the ark into the promised land through God doing the same thing of causing waters to move and dry land to be created by the wind. So God controls the wind. Interestingly, there is an idea where wind is caused. Okay, so this is going to be the nerdiest section of the stream. Do you know how wind is caused?
Isn't it the sun?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a couple different views of it. So it's not the earth rotating, which is what people used to think, where the drag of the mountains created it. That is not likely what is happening. It's not from the mountains. It's likely from a combination of sunlight and water and the movement of the planet. So this is kind of interesting. Water becomes plasmic whenever it has sunlight hit it, which is a strange idea. It's a strange thought. So there is 4 or 5 phases of water, specifically water, not other chemicals. You have like liquid, solid, gas. You also have plasma. Water kind of becomes a plasmic liquid, where it is still liquid, but it produces bulk water, which is H3O, and it produces HO layers in it that help clean itself. So as a self-cleaning organism called the exclusion zone layer, that effect stacks, and then that becomes ice. So you go from water to a sort of plasmic liquid to solid. Whenever it is either cooling down and causing that crystallization, or if you introduced hydrophilic elements within it, such as various materials. Sunlight, infrared radiation at a very specific band, also creates this effect. So whenever it's happening, it creates a charge gradient within the water itself, and it can actually hold a charge. It's a very small charge. It's not enough to kill you or anything crazy like that. But it is basically affecting the charge gradient on the ground level. So it's not necessarily heat causing the wind to move, but it would be heat causing the wind to move plus the charge gradient itself causing the heat to move. Or the air molecules themselves to move. There's a charge gradient on the planet, and whenever the sun hits it, you have this like sweeping effect of very low traveling winds on the ground, and then on the back end you have jet streams that are traveling at like 200 miles per hour the other direction. So you have air traveling extremely fast in one direction, going towards the sun, and then air going very slowly with the sun on the ground as it rotates and as it hits the waters around it, which might be some of the effects included. Now, there's different views within that if it is purely electrical or purely temperature, or it could be a combination thereof. Either way, light is what's actually causing that thing to happen. As the sun hits the water creates either a charge gradient or a heat gradient or both, and that is causing the wind to move. It pushes the molecules away. It's trying to reach equilibrium, and it trying to reach equilibrium plus the spin that creates the various types of streams and winds that we have. And because it is steady state, or at least mostly steady state, you create predictable patterns all over the planet. That is one idea of it with temperature and all that stuff. So the Bible here, when it says that he causes a wind to pass over it and God is light, I think that's just kind of interesting that it's God causing it to happen. As like the waters, and I don't know, my brain is weird sometimes. I just do things, but yeah. Anyway, so strange thing. I was just reading temperature. Yeah, pretty much. It's mostly just gradients. Difference in gradients could be either. Pretty sure people have. It's a pretty old thing. Like I first read about that like 15 years ago or so. So I'd be shocked if it wasn't. There was little or no wind in the antediluvian world. I don't know about that one. Yeah. What is God saying when he says he will not strive from land forever? Is it referring to God's gracious restraint on our sinful nature, him striving and holding us back? Or it could be him striving to hold himself back from judgment. Like he doesn't want to fully wipe us out, so he's not allowing us to sin for that long, but he then causes us to die so that we stop sinning. You have any thoughts
Yeah,
on
it
that?
definitely seems like a negative feeling attached with that statement than maybe something like
Right.
holding us back, which maybe I'm reading that sentence wrong, but it sounds like there could be like a positive connotation.
Right.
But I think in context, it definitely sounds like he's not happy.
No temperature changes before the flood, I think is just logically impossible if there's sunrise and sunset. And if there is sunrise and sunset, you should get some amount of wind, if not a good bit of wind, because you would still get the jet stream angle. Plus, well, there's also some indication that the plasmasphere affects the weather as well, because we get like blue jets, we get lightning, we get storms, we get all that stuff. It's hard to say how much of a plasmasphere we had at that time because we don't know. But there are models of the charge density and voltage level being different during that time period, and there's a nice little curve that matches for the young Earth view of it. But yeah, I mean, if you say there's no jet stream, then like, how could you prove that? Yeah. Could modern elf fantasy? That's an interesting idea. Like, we do definitely have some of the ancient yeah, so for the Egyptian mythology I went over earlier, and a lot of the other, because there's a lot of places that have old living humans. It is pretty interesting. I don't know if elves specifically would have, I haven't gone deep into the elf origins or where like what society elves come from. But yeah, the whole idea of ancient humans being super old, I could definitely see that. Please do a stream with Gary. Well, he's not hopping on right now. I'd have to set up a different stream, send him the link. But Norse, I figured it would probably be, but I didn't want to speak out my rear end.
Your own personal wind stream.
Yeah, my wind stream there. Yeah. So then God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, and God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the water subsided. Also, the fountains of the deep and the floodgates. Let me check that. No, it's not. Okay. The fountains of the deep and the floodgates of the sky were closed, and the rain from the sky was restrained. And the water receded from the earth, going forth and returning. And at the end of the 150 days, the water decreased. In the 7th month of the 17th day of the month, the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. Now, this is Tishri, and this would be during the Tabernacles time period, right? Tishri
Seventh
17?
month on the 7th day. It would be right
17th day.
between. It would be between Yom Teruah and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is on the 10th. Oh, 17th.
Right, 17th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, so yeah,
right
the second would be the
before
second day.
Tabernacles?
Second day of
Or
Tabernacles.
the second day?
Starts on the 15th.
Okay. Yeah, so the ark rests on tabernacles or during the time of tabernacles, which is kind of interesting. So we have God setting the ark to rest during that. And I believe it was right around a year that they were in the ark total, because it was 40 days of flooding and then around a year of them on the waters. Pretty interesting. So he has, tabernacles is to dwell with God, or God dwelling with us is where Jesus like comes in, like the whole typology thing. With the flood here, we have humans then redwelling the new creation. And Rosh Hashanah is supposed to be the anniversary of creation from like Jewish mythos.
Mm.
I don't think it's in the Bible. I think it's just the rabbinic understanding. But if
Yeah,
Rosh
it's
Hashanah
rabbinic.
was actually the time of creation, then you had like the idea of a new creation being right after the anniversary of the old creation, and it being 16 days after the original. So just little after 2 weeks, you then have this replanting of humanity into the earth during the time of tabernacles. It's pretty cool. It's
Mhm.
pretty based. Yeah.
Did we mention yet, Chris, that the word for wind is in Hebrew is the same for spirit? Ruach is they're used. That word is used for both. Just
For
as a
Roth and
little.
what?
Ruach is wind, but it also means spirit. So, like in Hebrew, the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit, Ruach Hakodesh, is
Mhm. The Holy Wind.
yeah.
It's just kind of funny. Yeah. Yeah. So like, oh, did he send the spirit to pass over the earth? God
Yeah,
caused a
just
spirit to pass over, or did
one of
God
those
cause a
neat
wind to
little
pass over it?
word
Yeah.
tangents.
And the spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the water to begin with. So we're like, oh, well, this is like the spirit being sent by God rather than a wind to dry it up. It's like, and throw that about, but I'm fine with it just being the wind, because that also does
Right.
mirror the later account with Moses. So
Yeah.
yeah. Was the flood up to the height of Mount Ararat? It would be above all the mountains. So also, I don't know if you can say all mountains were formed during the flood. That is one of the popular views of the young Earth position. I'm not entirely convinced of that. Even with Pangea being the original structure, um, I don't know if we have the physical evidence of that.
Well, and
But
isn't it specifically, I mean, it's mentioned when the flood comes that it was higher than all the mountains.
yeah,
And so wouldn't that assume that they were there? Uh,
right. Yeah.
unless I guess it's just using them as a measuring device to say that's how deep the water became. I guess you could read it that way.
Well, it said it went to the top of the mountains, then it went 15 cubits higher.
Oh, that's
So
right.
unless you want
That's
to
right.
say, yeah, uh, and it's like, oh well, maybe mountain just means like hills, but I think there's an actual Hebrew term for hill that's different than this one.
What do we have
Harim,
here? Harim. Yeah,
because
that's the regular word for
hor is
mountains.
mountain. This is mountains. So hor is mountains. Like Harakokom is the mountain that is likely Mount Sinai, my opinion.
Mm.
Um, what is the word for hill in Hebrew?
It's
Gibba. Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, Giva. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you do have a different word. If they wanted to say hill or if they wanted to say foothill, they could have, but instead they said mountain.
Mm.
So how could the mountains, you know, mountains already were formed? Why would there not be mountains during the flood? And the mountains themselves exhibit marks of youthfulness, where they're still isometrically moving. They're still bouncing up and down. So magma is not a liquid, not a solid. It's magmic, as its own classification. Peanut butter is a magma. It's not hot, but it is not fully liquid and it's not fully solid. If you put peanut butter, like a thick cup of peanut butter, and you drop a rock in it, the rock will hit, it'll go down, it'll go up a little bit, and then it'll go down, and it'll go up, and it'll just slowly, eventually become still. Now, it's so microscopic, it's hard to visually see, but whenever something's magmic, the shear is this, just like if you drop something in water, you see the ripple waves. You still get a ripple, but it quickly slows down. And the heavier the rock, the more of an effect you get. Although if you drop a rock from a certain height, it'll just splash upward. But if you get a really flat one, not like a really small, but like a really flat one with a big surface area, it'll just do. So the quicker you are to the impact event of that, the more movement you get up and down. Mountains now are still moving up and down by centimeters. So if mountains were generally hundreds of millions of years old, it makes less sense for them to still be moving up and down in the way that they are. So I mean, you have that. You also have the south, the Antarctica. The mountains are still intact. The mountain ridges are intact. That's pretty weird. If they were millions of years old and ice was moving on it constantly, you would expect it to be ground down to a flat surface, and it's not. It's extremely jagged under the ice. So you have a lot of things that you can point to that are like, this makes more sense if less time, not more time. Same with like cliffs. Cliff faces and the amount of cliff faces we have don't make sense with a lot of time. It makes sense with less time because they would have eroded much faster than that. Same with beachfronts. Like certain islands should have already been eroded, like Hawaii. Hawaii should be under the water by now, based on its age, from dating and on how much recession happens versus deposit, because it is receding. You're like, oh, well, it could have been just much bigger. And it's like, yeah, you have to make it like the size of like Kentucky to say it, but I don't know, man. Anyway, yeah. I wish I could be that excited about things other than programming. Oh, I love it. True, brother. Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, again, I will make a very detailed video. Probably not a stream, just because it's going to be too much to go through in a stream. I'll make a very dedicated video where I just present every piece of evidence for both positions that I'm aware of. Give my account. You can call me an idiot in it as much as you want in the comment section. But okay, any thoughts on that before we move on?
Nope. Ready to go forward.
Also, I will send you an email. You're not hopping on tonight, just so you're aware. The stream link I use today, I use every week, and I'm not going to give that out. We can set up a stream for either next week or later on this week. I'm not going live with you right now, just being honest, because I'm too lazy to change my routine. So I don't want to create I can make temporary stream links. This one is permanent. I don't want to redo my permanent links because there's too many people who use this link permanently for me to change it. So not doing that. But we can set it up a time to talk about things if you want. So then God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were with him in the ark, and God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the water subsided, and the fountains of the deep and the floodgates of the sky were closed, and the rain from the sky was restrained, and the water receding from the earth, going forth and returning. So this is the idea that it entered back into the trenches. Like the trenches were reopened, and the water receded back into it, just flooded into it. Flood. In the 7th month of the 17th day, it rested, and now the waters decreased steadily until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, the tops of the mountains appeared. It happened at the end of the 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark, which he had made, and he sent out a raven, and went out flying back and forth until the water was dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove from him to see if the water was abated from the face of the land. But the dove found no resting place for the sole of its foot. So it returned to him into the ark, for the water was on the surface of all the earth. Then he stretched out his hand and took it and brought it into the ark himself. Then he waited yet another 7 days, and again he sent out the dove from the ark. I'm pretty sure doves are a part of the set of 7. So he didn't use one of the birds that were of the set of 2. He used a bird of the set of 7 in case it died, likely. But it just so happens to be that God then used this dove in both the sacrifices and in the Holy Spirit comes and descends on Jesus like a dove. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, they are a kosher bird, so they would have been in the.
They
7.
are a kosher bird. Yes. Yeah. So he could have used unkosher birds to do this, but if you have only one male or one female of the unkosher birds, and you have 7 of each of the kosher birds, you should use the kosher bird. So, just logically speaking. I forgot what I was gonna say. I saw Gary send a long message. I just entirely blanked after that. So I'm just gonna keep going. And the dove came to him toward evening, and behold, in its beak was a freshly picked olive leaf. So Noah knew that the water was abated from the earth. What birds aren't kosher? Vultures, for one.
Go well.
Carrion
If
birds.
you read the Hebrew names, most of them are disputed. Funnily enough, but like owls,
Bats.
eagles, ospreys, things like that. Uh, chicken isn't mentioned, but chicken
Wolf.
is yeah. That's
Wolf
I
isn't
think because in
mentioned.
Hebrew, well, Olf in biblical Hebrew is just a general term for bird, and I think it's been
Okay.
adopted into modern Hebrew as like that's chicken
Chicken.
now
Yeah. Yeah.
because it is the
So
bird.
it's the bird. Yes. Whenever I was learning Hebrew, we had a bunch of stupid sentences with dove and um, like chicken. It's just like
Okay.
like Ani Rotsa oaf. And I was like, oh yes, I do want chicken. Yes. It reminds me of like Sahara Bukhari 5571. It's like
Oh yeah.
the prophet ate chicken. And it's like
I love
base,
that one.
yes. Yeah. Anil Khair chicken Anil chicken Anil Khair oaf. Like Tamaim. I'm like, yeah, it's tasty chicken. Yes, good. Yes. Uh, anyway, like the Iona is the dove, and it's like Iona Shotav Ain. I'm like, why is the dove drinking ayin or wine? I was like, what are you doing, man? There's
Yeah.
so many. Yeah, I love eating chicken based, dude. Absolutely. Um, there's so many stupid like whenever you learn foreign languages, I don't know why they just decide to give you the dumbest things possible to remember. Like
Yeah.
for my Spanish class, I took Spanish for 5 years in grade school because half the city I lived in spoke Spanish. So I had to know it. Um
Mm.
and one of the phrases that stuck in my head forever and will never leave is dos gatos en mi pantalones.
What?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Wow.
But that is a sentence that I had to learn for no reason. For those who don't know, it's like
Maybe it's because the meaning is
there's two
so
cats in my
funny
pants.
that it's easier to remember, maybe?
I have no idea, dude. I have absolutely no. Apparently, he had to learn I have two boogers in my nose, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, like tengo dos gatos en pantalones is like, yeah, I have two cats in my pants, and that was the phrase my teacher drilled into my head.
I
Yeah,
still remember we had
same,
to
dude.
listen to these recordings and there would be the guy's voice on the recordings. Like for this, you'd get a paper and then so you could practice listening. And the
Right.
guy's voice was always so funny because it would be like a circle the T or F for true or false. They read
Mm.
a statement and then they ask you a question. And he would always go, si falso, ponga un círculo alrededor la F. And it was just the funniest thing because it sounded like he was trying so hard to sound like an audio guy. And it was just very fun. Like the class would always laugh when that part came up.
Did you ever have to watch the purple dude? Um, what's his name?
We had to watch La Catrina, which was
Oh,
this
this is
weird
gonna
soap opera type thing of this lady, this mysterious lady, and it took place in Oaxaca.
dude, the cheese from there is awesome.
Really?
Absolutely the best Mexican cheese,
Oh,
no
wow.
doubt. Muzzy,
Wait,
Muzzy.
that sounds
Did
familiar.
you did you ever have to watch Muzzy? We
Let
had to
me,
watch
do you have
Muzzy.
a,
Yeah, I'll pull it up in a second. Um,
okay.
this is extremely off tangent. This dude right here We had to watch this as part of my Spanish curriculum, and I had to watch this
Oh no, I
stupid
don't think so.
guy try to usurp the king while
Oh,
counting
that
in
looks
Spanish. So he
terrible.
would take a step and he'd be like, "Uno, dos, tres," and he'd get a big smile on his face. He's like, "I am about to kill him."
No, I did
We had to
not
watch this in
have to watch Muzzy.
my middle school Spanish class. Yeah. Apparently there's an English version too, but we had to watch the Spanish Muzzy.
Muzzy sounds
Oh, there's a French
like
dude.
a English or a British pejorative for a Muslim.
This is the exact one. It's $30. Oh man.
Wow.
It's VHS tapes though. I don't have a player anymore. And cassette
Yeah. Oh,
tapes.
and have you ever
Mm,
have you ever tried to buy a VCR, Chris? Like a,
it's hard.
they're like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, there's like none left.
Because
Dude, anyone who's seen Muzzy
I
is the
bought
real one.
3 so far at the local like junk shop, just hoping they'll work. And I
Hey,
clean the
birthday.
heads and everything, and but they'll work for like one playing because all of my home videos are on VHS. And I wanted to show the kids, and you get through like 30 seconds or maybe like 5 minutes, and then it just starts goofing up. And so I have like a pile right now of, maybe if I refurbish them, I can resell them for a ton more money, and then I can buy a new VCR.
Oh yeah, can afford it at that point. Um,
Yeah.
so we have someone with Christian stream. Wouldn't the Nephilim and their descendants be wiped out with the flood? Yes. Then they respawned after the flood. So that's my position, is that they were still able to reproduce up until the Tower of Babel is my crackpot theory at the moment. But they definitely existed after the flood. The Bible even says they existed after the flood. So whatever mechanism they had to have intercourse with demons slash angels, either it still exists, and that's what Satanists are doing, which there is some debate on that, on whether or not you're actually having intercourse with the demons whenever you do certain rituals. Not going to go into that. I might go into that on a different stream with Chase and Andrew, 'cause Andrew wants to talk about all the Satanist stuff. So we might do a Satanist stream and go through that, where there's some practices of yoga are essentially inviting demons to have intercourse with you. Great to not everyone who does yoga does it for that way, but yoga is a religious practice that happens to now be mainstream secular practice as well for exercise.
Chris,
It was originally
when
a religious
Jesus,
practice.
sorry, the delay is a thing again. I didn't mean to,
That's fine.
if I interrupt you. Uh, when Jesus mentions when they're bickering about whose wife that lady would be in paradise, when she goes
Right.
through and marries the 7
The five
brothers,
guys, yeah.
or 5, yeah,
Seven.
5.
Whatever number, yeah.
And he says that there won't be marriage, for men and women will be like the angels.
Right.
I took that meaning that there would be no sexual intercourse.
Intercourse. Yes. Yeah.
And so he says he uses, we would be like the angels, which would make me think the angels are incapable of sexual intercourse. So how does that tie in with the other idea of this interbreeding, I guess, with this like spirit
Yeah.
human interbreeding?
Right. So I mean, you have I guess a couple possible ones. There's the one I think is the least likely, is that there is no marriage, but there's still intercourse. And then you just do it Islamic style free for all. I don't imagine that will be the case. I have no idea, but that would be the least likely in my brain. Um,
Mhm.
just knowing the character of God, even though sex is a blessing and is a good thing, I can't imagine that would still be required or even necessary in the new earth. And whatever God gives us
Right.
is going to be probably better than sex. So sex is not like, it's awesome. If you're married, you should definitely do it because it's a good thing and God gave it to you as a blessing, not as procreation tool, but as a literal blessing to bless you and your wife. And only do it between you and your wife. Anyway, if you're not married, don't do it.
Mm.
But beyond that, it's like there's significantly better things in life than just having sex. So you don't really need it. But for the whole Nephilim debate, I see how if we don't have intercourse in heaven like the angels, how could the angels have intercourse with the humans on earth? And that is a legitimate question. You do have a passage in the New Testament which is kind of strange to go through, and it's 1 Corinthians, I believe 14. It could be off, but it's in 1 Corinthians. It's because of the angels, and we'll just search that term. Because of
Oh, the head covering?
yes. I want to say it's the end of 1 Corinthians 14. No, it's 11. Never mind. It's before the. So I judge everything in 1 Corinthians based on the Holy Spirit passages. So if something's before 1 Corinthians 12 or something's after 1 Corinthians 14, that's like where my brain goes for Corinthians. Anyway, now therefore women ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. Now, there's some people who interpret it because of the angels to include or to mean in like the Enochian style that
I've heard
the
that, yeah.
reason that women were lusted after by the angels is because of their hair. So whenever you have long, beautiful hair, it attracts the angels for whatever reason. And there's pretty much nowhere in the Bible, there's only one passage that indicates any female spirit beings. All other spirit beings in the Bible, including like the wheels, like the crazy things that our brains can't even possibly fathom, they're all described in the masculine. They all have masculine grammar and nouns and verbs. And they're literally called he's a lot of the time. There's only one passage where it indicates a female being that has wings. That might be a spirit being. And it's in a vision, it's in a dream. So who knows if that's literal, if there are female spirit beings, or if it's all just males. If they're all just males and they're called males and they even look human at times, there's no reason why they couldn't have relationship with humans or like be seen and physically interacted with. We have angels that are physically able to touch and eat in the Old Testament with Genesis 18 and 19. The angels eat the meal that Abraham brought them, and then they also grab Lot and pull him into his house. So they are able to physically touch and interact with the world and even take in food. Now, if they need the food, we have no idea. If they poop, we have no idea. All we know is that they can eat food and that the food goes inside of them and that they were able to touch living beings. So can they have intercourse because of that? Do they lust after women because of their beautiful hair and or bodies? So like if women are immodest, are the angels then going to look at them and lust after them? I do have a Discord server. It is for members only for the public one, and I have a couple private ones that I do not, generally speaking, put out there. There's only a few people on those, like 6-7 people. But if you
Chris,
remember,
in
I
this
have
sentence,
Discord server. Yeah.
sorry, the delays. Should I maybe leave and come back? Do you think? Because I
No,
feel
that's fine.
bad cutting you off.
No, that's fine.
Were you going to finish something up on the Discord server before I was
No,
going to say
just
something about this?
if you want to join it, become a member.
And Chris will not shoot
Anyway,
you.
I will not shoot you, but I'll help you should come over here. If you befriend me, I'll let you shoot my guns.
That
Not at
sounds
me or other
fun.
people, but at targets, clay targets. We'll go skeet shooting. It'd be great.
That's something I've never done. I've done just paper shooting at the range, which is plenty
Oh
fun.
man, dude.
But
Nah, we gotta go shoot some clays.
that
Okay.
sounds very fun.
Yes.
But
We'll
in
do that
this
whenever you
verse
come over.
specifically, when it says how I take it is when it because it seems to be based on as a symbol of authority,
Right. That's
which
the other
seems to not
interpretation.
have to do with anything sexual as far as I feel
Right.
contextually, you know.
Right. So that is one of the other passages. Mike Winger did an excellent breakdown on this verse. He did it in 6.5 hours.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that video.
That video is excellent. It goes over the 6 main views of how you interpret this passage. The headship interpretation is popular, and it is, possible. I would also say the lust view is also possible, especially with the language we get in a lot of the prophetic void literature. So in like first and second Enoch, well, first Enoch, second Enoch is after Christ, but we still have this language of angels lusting after humans and humanity all over the rabbinic material, all over the pre-Second Temple Judaism and Second Temple Judaism literature, in the Babylonian literature. You have stuff like this, and you do have people throughout history who've testified that they've been able to have intercourse with demons and other things. So
Is it a
who
weird
knows?
question to ask that if that was possible though and going on, wouldn't you ought to expect a lot more of the offspring? I mean, wouldn't that be a very useful way to uh mess up the earth and everything is by so why would they well, I guess you did
Right.
mention that people still hypothesize that it is going on today.
Right.
But I would just think there'd be so much more of it. Wouldn't there be so much wouldn't it be
Right. Unless
reasonable
God is
to
just
expect
deliberately curtailing it.
right?
Yeah. So that's why I think so whenever we look at the language of the Nephilim, like the killing of the Philistines or the killing of the Canaanites, like the Amalekites, that was a tribe of giants. So whenever
Hmm.
the spies go out into the land, like there's giants in the land. What are we
Right.
gonna do? And then they go out and they slaughter all the giants. So like it may have been that the giants were congregating there and the giants were used in certain structures, like all the conspiracy theories of like all the temples all lining up on the
Hmm.
magnetic grid and all that stuff, and all these big stones that were hard to move, like Stonehenge. Like, how did they move it? It's like, oh well, if you believe dinosaurs coexisted with humans up until recent history, then maybe dinosaurs helped, but that would be hard to tame because dinosaurs likely were pretty stupid. If they were giants, then that still doesn't really explain it that well, unless they're using like very sophisticated lifts and pulleys. But even then, it's there's some difficulty in it. So it's like, or giants the explanation behind all these anomalous mystery, like conspiracy type buildings and structures of the ancient world? Um, who knows? Maybe they were all over the planet and God just systematically destroyed them, as he did with the
Hmm.
Jews in the Middle East. Maybe he also did that with the Native Americans, because there's stories of Native Americans going out and slaughtering giants. Maybe he
Hmm.
did it with the Chinese. Maybe he did it with the South Americans, the Incans. Like maybe all of these ancient civilizations that have giant stories, they're like, hey, let's go kill the giants. They were inspired to do so by God because he didn't want them corrupting the earth. Who knows? Maybe giants don't have the same rights as humans. Which there was a question in Christian Gadfly's chat earlier, and I regret not reading it now. But it was basically like, why would God wipe out the Nephilim if they were still able to be saved through repentance? And I'm not entirely convinced that they were able to be saved through repentance, that they're not just damnable creatures to begin with, which gets into the whole thing of like, since demons are damned to hell, would their offspring also be damned to hell? Um, and like a lot of different like nuances in God's justice and judgment and what it means to have like corporal punishment for an entire class of being, and like a lot of different rabbit holes I just decided was not worth to go down whenever Christian was here. And I'm still deciding I don't really think it's worth to
Hmm.
go down now. But there's difficulties. Again, there's very few positions within the Bible that I think are like hard set settled, and most of those have to do with salvation on the cross. A lot of the rest of it, I think, is significantly less settled than what people are comfortable saying, but I don't think
Hmm.
is actually a problem for Christianity.
Right.
All the stuff that needs to be settled for our faith to be true is settled. The other things I don't think is settled as easily. Could still be settled, and there's definitely, I imagine, at least a couple people throughout history that have had perfect theology. But my suspicion is most of us don't have perfect theology, and we won't, and that's
Hmm.
okay. We can get closer to truth as we test things, as we look at things, as we learn things, as we sharpen each other, because it's iron sharpening iron. But again, it's hard. And Gary said salvation is for
And
humans.
that's why praying and
Yeah,
reading your Bible is very important, kids.
true, absolutely. Do animals get saved? I cannot support that biblically, even though I love my
Hmm.
dogs and I hope that I spend eternity
Right.
with them. and that I get Ellie, not my wife does, but I get her. And my wife would be very sad if she heard that. But I'd be hoping to spend eternity with that dog because I love that dog so much. I wish I could make that dog live forever, even though she's going to die in the next 2 to 3 years, just because she's getting old. I cannot biblically say my dog will be in heaven with me. I also think that's okay. Now, there are probably animals in heaven, because we have descriptions of the lion and the lamb being led by the child. There's no guarantee that that's literal. It might be symbolic language. And there is language of sacrifices happening in the third temple, which would involve animals. But again, you can say that that's not literal, it's symbolic. So most of the imagery we have talking about animals in the next life could just as easily be interpreted as poetic symbolism from the prophets. And you don't really have great, like, unless you guys, like, unless anyone in the comments or you, Steven, have a like slam dunk case of animals being in the new earth in the text, I don't think we have like a slam dunk case for it myself. I hope it's the
I
case.
agree
I
with you,
hope my
Chris.
animals.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. I hope also, and it does. It's one of those things when you consider the character of God, you wanna see. It seems like there would be
Right.
something for them, but also at the same time,
So,
like you were saying, with scripturally, I don't think that there's one way or the other to think of it that is very convincing.
yeah, people were smarter in the past for the how do they build all that stuff. I would generally speaking agree to that. Gary brings up the animals, the horses for the 4 horsemen and for what Jesus rides in, because he rides in on a white steed, if I remember correctly. Yeah, but again, that's revelation. Like that very easily could just be symbolism, especially because Jesus isn't going to need to ride a white steed to fight the devil, because he cast him out like lightning last time. So why would there need to be a battle? But I don't know. That one is more impressive to me than the other ones. Still not convinced by that one. But Revelation is not mystical. It definitely is in many regards. Not in every regard, but in many regards, it definitely is. Yeah, I mean, again, like God did in fact create animals and the earth. The problem is, are the animals in the next earth going to be the animals from this earth? Or are they going to be animals of
That's,
the
I
new
think,
earth?
the main thing that I thought we were talking about. I think there'll definitely
Yeah, that's
be
what I'm talking about
animals
too.
in the new earth, but
Yeah,
like
I
my
would not be
dog.
surprised by that. Right.
Mhm,
Will my dogs that I've had, because I've had multiple that have passed away, would all of them be in the new
right.
earth? I can't imagine a scenario where that would be yes, because of the sheer number of animals that have died in this world
Mhm.
is in the trillions, if not
Well, and then
quadrillions. It's a massive
for
amount.
the sake of exploring it further, like what about ants and things?
Right?
Uh,
Yeah, like that's a lot of biomass. Unless the new
there's
Earth
already
is
too
like
many ants.
hundreds, hundreds of times bigger than what the current Earth is, I can't imagine. And we get the dimensions of the New Jerusalem at least. And New
Mhm,
Jerusalem is massive, mind you, and it's a pyramid. It's a
mhm.
pyramid-shaped city, and it's massive. If the
Well, that is, I
if the New
guess,
Earth is only New
talking about
Jerusalem, then that's
the
not nearly big
new
enough.
Earth, uh,
Right.
could be huge.
It could be huge.
So
It
I
could in
guess
fact
that
be
that is.
huge.
Mhm.
But again, it's like I don't know. Again, New Jerusalem absolutely would make this worldwide, but New Jerusalem is massive according to Revelation. Um,
Mhm.
but even with that, the way I've interpreted or the way I've seen New Jerusalem interpreted is that all of the earth is just New Jerusalem. So there is nothing outside of New Jerusalem. But if you view things being outside of New Jerusalem, then that earth would be massive. It'd be significantly bigger than this earth. And you probably could easily fit all the animals that have ever existed. With a young earth view, with an older view, I think that would still be quite challenging. Because then you're opening up into pentillions of animals that have existed. That's a lot of food and real estate that is needed, and like you have no idea how many ants there are, my guy. You don't want to know how many ants there are and how many spiders there are and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, New Jerusalem is on New Earth. I get that it's on New Earth, but there's also interpretations that it is the New Earth because of the language being used for the Garden of Eden. Gan Eden, the Gan there, the garden, is also symbolized in Christian homilies early on that it is paradise. So whenever Jesus says, "I'll see you in paradise," you could be talking about Elysium or Abraham's bosom, or you could be talking about literally heaven, because that is used of Paul. Paul talks about heaven as paradise. And that's the same thing. It just literally means garden. The word for paradise, paradisio, is just garden. And it's referring likely to the Garden of Eden. But it's like the new garden and all that stuff. Anyway. Is this just a YouTube stream? Yes, it is just a YouTube stream. It is just going through Genesis 6 through 8. And we made it through the first 2 chapters. We'll make it through 8 at some point. I'll read it.
How far do we get? Looks like we might meet the goal with your
Yeah,
help,
no, yeah,
viewers.
we're going to. Yeah. Yeah, if I just keep reading, it'll be fun. Especially because we're already like halfway through 8. So both a garden and a temple when saying garden.
Definitely
The
not in
word,
Hebrew, I don't think.
yeah, no, it means like a hedge around something. So the idea is, so in the Aramaic usage, it is a hedge, or it
Okay.
is a fence. It's like a walled-in structure. So you have a walled-in structure. The idea is you plant a garden within a walled-in structure. So like the area, the land there is protected, it is guarded, and it is well kept. That's what a garden is. A garden is well kept from predators, both animals and humans, so that they can't go in to harvest your food. Because a garden's not meant to just be flowers. A garden's also like food and everything else within it. Like it's
a production facility.
trees and yeah. So you guard your gardens. And then that language usage is also in the early Christian writings as well. And that's where Islam gets it from, mind you. That's part of the Talmudic dilemma. I did a video on that. The only correction
Yeah, and
we'll
I
have
guess
is that's not purely an Islamic invention, but
in
the
Arabic, Jannah
Eden
would
being
just
heaven.
be
Yeah.
a cognate.
Yeah.
So okay, so it's just directly they just directly took that then, I guess.
Yep, it's an exact. So almost every theological term within Islam is a straight cognate of Aramaic or Hebrew or Syriac.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. All you know how the Quran says it's like in pure Arabic. There's like thousands of Hebrew words in it,
Well, especially when it comes to
including
like names of the
Shekinah.
prophets. That's
Oh yeah,
that I
yeah,
feel like that's kind of an embarrassing death blow to because uh names that are theophoric that involve Yahweh they
right,
use
right.
and that doesn't make any
Like they don't know
sense.
Yahweh's name. Yeah,
Right.
it's not Allah, it's Yahweh.
Right.
Interestingly, they use the word Shekinah. The word Shekinah appears like 5 to 6 times in the Quran. Do you know what Shekinah means?
Shekhinah dwelling? Is it like
Yeah,
Ishkan?
the
Okay.
dwelling place of God. Do you know where that appears in the Bible?
I didn't think it did. No, wait.
It does not.
Okay. Yeah,
It does
I'm
not
thinking
appear
of
in the Bible.
Mishkan. Mishkan is the
Yeah,
term for the tabernacle. Same root. But
right,
yeah, Shekhinah
right.
is not in the Bible.
Yeah, it's not in the Bible. It's all throughout the rabbinic literature, and it's in the Quran. So why is the Quran using a
Ah,
Jewish term that is
okay.
only rabbinic that doesn't appear in the Bible if it's only supposed to be confirming the Torah?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Oh yeah.
yeah. It's almost like Islam is fiction or something. Yeah. We call that stealing. Yes, that is the appropriate answer for that. That is in fact stealing. Um, yes. So now it
Yeah,
happened in the
Ilyas.
601st. Yes, it's a cult. So now it happened in the 601st year in the first month on the first of the month. The water was dried up from the earth. But Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the surface of the ground was dried up. So the first month, on the first of the month, so the first day of the new year, right before Passover, then Noah removed the ark of the covering and looked, and behold, the surface of the ground was dried up. In the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. I believe this is right around Pentecost.
Pentecost would be it's 50
Or is it
days
the
after
third
the
month? It's
Sunday that
50 days
falls during
after.
Passover. So,
Right.
uh, well, yeah, I guess that would be, well, no, that
Be
would be
right after it. Yeah. So 27th day of the month would be 5 weeks later or 6 weeks later.
okay.
Yeah. So it's not quite, but it's right after Pentecost. So it's interesting that the Noah story, a lot of these major milestones are happening around the time of various festivals and all the important festivals.
Hmm.
So I'm sure there's some symbolism there. I just haven't gone through it in my own studies. So, you know, you can look into that yourself if there is any. Then God spoke to Noah, saying, Go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. Bring out with you every living thing of all flesh that is with you, birds and animals, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and that may have swarm on the earth, and that they may be fruitful and multiply on the earth. So they do it, and all of them succeed in doing that. The year is no longer 360 days. So I'm not going to. I did want to bring up this. So this is a comment on Christian. He's already mentioned this already. But if you're still watching on Christian Gadfly stream, I love that you brought up, is this a YouTube stream? But you didn't actually ask, where's Christian Gadfly? So either you're a new viewer to Christian's stream and you're watching essentially my stream on Christian's channel, or you had no problem whatsoever that Christian Gadfly wasn't here. Either way, that's really funny. I just thought about that while I was reading. But welcome.
He's off. He was at my place, and
Taking
he's
a seat.
off over there eating a sandwich and having a hot drink, as he calls it. But he might be back, so stay tuned.
He's definitely not going to be back. He's sleeping. For those wondering where Christian Gadfly is, he's currently napping or sleeping.
He drank
And
a bunch
depending
of
on
camel
how
pee
long.
and passed out on my floor.
Okay. So they all started multiplying. And then, so Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, every bird, everything that moves on the earth went out by their families from the ark. Interestingly, these are the categories in which Adam was given dominion over. To my knowledge, he's not given dominion over the fish, over the dog, over all the sea life. He's only given dominion over the things on the land, which is kind of interesting. So the things that man has dominion over are also the things that are saved by man during the flood by being faithful to God. So where
Oh,
Adam
that's
was
interesting.
unfaithful and caused death, Noah was faithful and brought life to all things that are under humans' authority and dominion.
Does it say, Chris? Does it say that when it's doing the Dominion uh, quote that it doesn't mention the fish of the sea?
I don't believe it did, but I can double check real quick.
Because it does
So he
mention the
created them.
birds of the sky, right?
Oh no, it does. Never mind. I'm done.
Okay.
So they will have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and the cattle. Yeah. No. Never mind. Scratch that. Real
Would have
time.
been cool.
Thank
Would
you.
have been cool. A cool
Yeah,
connection you made there, but
I misremembered the past, which is why you should always test your teachers to make sure they're actually telling you true things. Yeah. So scratch that. Although it is still interesting that humans are given authority over all animals. Good catch for that. Thank you. It's interesting that they're still given authority over all animals, and humans are responsible for saving them as well by God's authority and God's
Mhm.
decree, which gets into the typology of Noah in general. So where Noah is faithful and brings life to all of life, both his sons and his daughters and his wife. Christ brings life to all things through his sacrifice, and he redeems us, and he is part of the new creation. So Noah was the bridge between the old creation and the new creation. Jesus is the bridge between the old man and the new man. So we are a new creation in Christ Jesus, and he is the one that brings us into it. So
Amen.
we have a amen, yes. We have a bunch of things. Typology is pretty cool. We should study it. But there's just about every figure of the Bible has some connection to Christ that you can point out, either very quickly or in very deep study. Like Joseph is the deepest type of Christ. You could spend a full day just going through all the typology of Joseph. It's pretty cool. We'll
Oh, and
eventually do a stream
you
on it.
gotta
It's
do
like
that
7
with
hours.
Tommy. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Get Defo want Tommy on here for that one.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get him on it. That's coming up soon. We're gonna be in 9, so that's gonna start out in like 32, 33.
So like 2056, if the Lord tarries.
It starts in 37 is where we probably start it. So we're almost there. Whenever we go through that, I might have my wife just take off work that day, and
That
then
would
me
be
and Tommy
fun.
just do like a 10-hour stream
That
and
would be
start
super
at like
fun.
9 a.m.
Mhm.
Yeah. We'll order food and just eat halfway through it. That means dragon riders are possible. Never mind, you ignore the distraction. Dude, dragon riders are interesting. So dragons probably exist just because we have global accounting of them from nations that never interacted with each other. So how
Mhm.
is it that every civilization on the planet talked about a dragon, talked about a fiery flying animal?
Was it Chris? Was it
Actually,
Herodotus that mentioned the flying snakes in Egypt? Have you heard about that?
that sound yeah. Because that's also in the Christian writings. I think so. Doing a quick little Google
Because I feel
before I say
like, if
yes or
I'm
no.
remembering correctly, he said that
Yes,
he personally saw them and that
yes,
they're
the
horrible.
winged
They like nest
serpents.
in trees or something, or
Yeah, Herodotus is in fact the one in 5th century BC who said that they flew from Arabia to Egypt each spring. You also have descriptions of early, I believe, church fathers who go out and slay
Mhm.
dragons. Like, um, it's pretty interesting. You have dragon myths up until very recent history.
Yeah, Saint
There's a
George
whole
in
thing
the
of yeah,
he slew a dragon.
he did. Uh, so you have all those descriptions. You have paintings of them. You have statues of them. A lot of the times they're just dinosaurs. So it could be that dinosaurs lived up until like the 1800s, 1700s, and we have some decent evidence for that. We have some decent evidence against that. Again, we have evidence on both sides.
Well, and
But
also, I mean,
there's a
eh, crocodiles and alligators. Oh, they're pretty much dinosaurs.
it's true. Yeah. But you have like Marco Polo describing a T-Rex in his travels in China. And where he said that he found a T-Rex, we found bones of T-Rexes. So it's like,
Oh,
oh, well, did
really?
he just find the yeah. But he also describes how they hunt the animal, which is pretty interesting. And how what they do with the body. So they do stuff with the gall, they do stuff with the bones, they do stuff with the scales. Um, so the way he describes this creature sounds exactly like a small T-Rex. And then we find mini T-Rex dinosaurs in China, which is pretty based. And then the
Hmm.
footnote of the description of the guy who was the compiler of Marco Polo's notes says, while our I think he said our captain is usually really good with his natural philosophy, his description of a crocodile here seems quite exaggerated. And it's like, that's not a crocodile, my dude. I don't know what you're reading, but crocodiles don't walk on two legs and have two small arms with sharp claws on it. Anyway,
Very interesting.
I can read that if you want. I can pull that up real quick. Why not?
Might as well. It's on topic enough.
Might as well. Marco Polo. T-Rex entry. This is in, I believe, Zandu. Do, 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 do. All right, so this is in his histories in the province of Quran in Polo's
Sallallahu
the
alayhi
travels of Marco
wasallam.
Polo's. Why? In the travels of Marco Polo, which is the 1961 edition, on page 158 through 159, it says, here are found in this region in China snakes and huge serpents 10 paces in length and 10 spans in girth. That is 50 feet long and 100 inches in girth. So 50 feet long is significantly bigger than any crocodile. Significantly longer.
Yeah.
At the forepart near the head, they have two short legs, each with 3 claws, as well as eyes larger than a loaf and very glaring. It's specifically a 4-penny loaf in the Italian dialect. So it's like a loaf that is like, about that size or so. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man, and the teeth are very large and sharp. Their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror. Others are of smaller size, being 8, 6, or 5 paces long. So you have big ones and you have little ones, maybe big T-Rexes and smaller like raptor-like creatures. And then continues on and says how the locals hunt it. He notes that the creatures were nocturnal, dwelling in caverns during the day to avoid the heat. After the creatures killed their prey, Polo wrote that they would find water as a source, such as a lake or a spring or a river, and the serpents' massive bodies left deep impressions in their paths as if a heavy beam had been drawn along the sands. This is page 159. The creatures followed these same rutted paths regularly. Since their route was predictable, the natives buried large wooden stakes tipped with sharp iron spikes, which they covered with the sand. So they noticed that there's these deep tracks that are happening in the sand by these large reptiles. They then buried stakes into the sand that they would then like jub their hand or stab their feet into these spikes, with which they were the animals would be wounded and then they would be quickly dispatched by the locals. They use the gall as a type of medicine, and they use the bones in various rituals and in medicine as well. So Marco Polo seems to describe a T-Rex, and we find a smaller
Or
version
a
of the
closer
T-Rex in
relative
China.
with mentioning the 3 claws. What is is that an Allosaurus? Some of those they look
Yeah.
pretty similar, but they have 3 claws instead of 2.
Yes. So the specific one here would be I'm gonna butcher this name just so you're prepared. The Zucconosaurus. I'll put it in chat.
Oh, Chris, you don't have
That's
to
not what I
cuss.
meant. I mean, come on. I didn't mean to put that.
It's a Brachiosaurus.
That one.
Oh
So
boy. Is it Chinese? Zhu Cheng
It's Chinese.
Tyrannus?
Zhusheng Tyrant. The Zhushen
Tyrannus.
Tyrannus. Yeah, it's a lot smaller than the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it happens to live in China, in the exact province and region that Marco Polo is traveling in.
Okay. Oh wow, so very interesting. So that's that specific model of T-Rex is the one that was described but also found in China, just as described by Marco Polo? Wow, interesting.
It's very interesting. It might just be a coincidence. Very well could be a coincidence. It very well could be that he found fossils of it,
Would be
and then came up with the
right.
story. But I mean, how do you know the claws? How do you know the habit? How do you know and these habits are verified by paleontologists who study the bones. So same thing with like the Bible and the behemoth or the behemoths, the behemoth creature of Job 40. It says that it dwells in the marshes. We know from its bone structure and the way it's set up is that it is a swamp creature. And there's all these stories in Africa of this giant swamp creature. I believe it's the Melekamele or something like that.
Oh, I've heard of that.
That lives there. Who knows? I have no idea. I think history is significantly more interesting than people let it on to believe. As
Definitely.
TRT brought up, interestingly, life probably was more close to fantasy in the past. I agree.
Well,
Um,
and with that comment,
I
they're saying other than magic, I mean, when it comes to
yes, it's
things
ongoing.
like sorcery and but I mean even with divine intervention, things like Christians were doing, like was it Peter's shadow was healing people and stuff. Uh I often think that us as humans, uh as us as humanity straying from God further and further, we lose maybe not the ability, well, probably also the ability, but the noticing of stuff like this, and I guess because of losing the ability, because the world has become so corrupt. I mean, it is mentioned that that the end of days time period will be like the days of Noah, and
Hmm.
I think we're getting pretty close. I hope I hope it can't get worse, but I'm guessing that it will get worse. And but then also it's like, okay, well, that does make it a little bit easier for you to cheer on the happenings in Revelation, to just be like, okay, I mean, my
Let's
daughter
just get it
says it
over with. Yeah,
once or twice a day. She's like, just Jesus, please come back. Like, so
yeah.
I don't
Like,
know. I don't
let's
know how
just
you've
do
let it
it.
go this long, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah,
I don't know how you're not sick of it by now. So I'm ready. Let's go.
right. Yeah, it's like the end will not come until the fullness of Gentiles come. So if you really want the end to come, go preach to the Gentiles.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. There's your onus to go preach. If you want if you want all this to end, you want the new earth and judgment and all that stuff to happen, go preach to
Now
the
this would
lost.
be
Then the end
this
will
would
come.
be possibly too much of a tangent, to because we're probably getting so close to our goal.
Yeah, there's
But
2 verses left. Yeah.
okay, so I'll do it real quick. When it comes
Okay.
to things like when it comes to evangelizing, there was that big controversy. It was our friend Tommy would say a hoo-ha. There was a grand hoo-ha about that guy who went to visit that remote island and got shot by arrows as he was approaching. And I
Right.
was actually surprised to see Christians be so divided on the topic. I thought the guy, now I don't know his motivation. I don't know if he was, seeking fame, or I would hope not. But leaving that aside, so many Christians are saying, no, that's, you're impeding on their culture, or you have no business doing that. And they, uh, which I thought was weird to hear from Christians. What do you think, Chris? I would say those people need the gospel.
For sure. I mean, the end's not going to come until they get the gospel. So, I mean,
And
that needs
so,
to be done.
would you criticize that guy for his attempt, knowing the danger involved? Was he
I
too
mean, just
ambitious?
about. No, I wouldn't criticize them. Like almost every single society that has been preached to at one point persecuted those preaching to them. Um,
Hmm.
so like martyrdom has been happen. It's happened on every continent. Uh, whether they were hostile or not. So like even the new like preaching to the Native Americans and the South Americans, like a lot of it was terrible. I'm not gonna mess around. Like a lot of it was terrible. A lot of it was not terrible, but it's called terrible for no reason.
Hmm.
But either way, both groups, the terrible and the non-terrible, both faced persecution from the natives because there were
Hmm.
warmongering natives as well as peaceful natives. The warmongering natives we had to fight because they, mind you, the peaceful natives were happy that we were taking out the warmongering natives because the warmongering natives also did the same things to the peaceful ones. So
Right.
we made a bunch of alliances very early on with a bunch of Native American tribes because we're like, hey, you see those Apaches over there? Go kill them, please. So
Right.
anyway,
Well, and I think it would be reasonable
uh,
to assume that all of these non gospel cultures, would we would generally expect that a lot of their ceremonies and rites and beliefs are based on demons and evil.
Yep. I mean, a lot of
So it would
paganism is
make
just
sense that they would be
Satanism.
very opposed to the gospel.
Right. They would have demonic influences to keep them from it.
Mm.
Yeah. You see the same thing with every civilization. Japan is definitely going to be very difficult to reach. Yeah, I'm working. I mean, that's definitely on my way lower on my to-do list. I think Islam is my biggest priority right now, but then after Islam, I'll probably focus on Japanese ministry, to be honest. Like, Yeshua wakami this. Like, yeah, Jesus is God. Let's do it. So go through that. Yeah. Go ahead. Let's finish the Bible passage real quick. We're so close to
Yeah.
the end for that. We can go down any other tangents we so feel. Then Noah built an altar to Yahweh and took 2 of every clean animal and 2 of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And so he had to bring multiple because there was an offering that was going to happen. Yahweh smelled the soothing aroma, and Yahweh said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intent of man's heart is evil from its youth, and I will never again strike down every living thing which I've done. So again, for like, oh, humans are just born good. It's like, no, we all want to do evil. My 2-year-old does really, really, really mean things to her brother.
Mm.
Unprompted. She's never learned that behavior. She invented that own behavior within her heart. So even though they're in a state of innocence, they are still wicked in some regard, which is
Well, like
interesting.
like
They're not
we
guilty of
said
it,
on
but
previous streams, if you ever wonder if people are naturally good from birth, go to like a kindergarten playground and just watch.
just
And you will
observe, just
see
watch for a bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you will change your mind very quickly. And I'm not saying they're little hellions that are just evil, constantly doing terrible things, but you will see that there's not natural goodness on display. The
Right.
children, and
Right.
anybody who's had a kid knows you need to teach your child to not lie. You need to teach your child
Ah,
what selfishness is. You have to teach them to share. And because these are not now, some children will have innately they will have strengths in certain areas where some will be more compassionate or more generous, but generally speaking, every child is going to have where you will see that unless they are taught against a certain behavior, a certain mindset, it will develop into something that will be very very terrible, and it won't take
right.
long if it's unchecked.
It's true. I'm currently going through that struggle with my son. So you want to pray for me and the mental battles of raising children? I would greatly appreciate that. But
Yeah, sure.
yeah, uh, we have Yahweh here smelling the soothing aroma. This language is all throughout the Old Testament. Um, in the priestly sacrifices, the reason why he says it's a soothing aroma is because it's basically the smell of barbecue. If you like the smell of barbecue, you would like the smell of the temple because the temple would just smell like barbecue. It's just what it is. It's barbecued meat. So God likes barbecue. So if you're like, hey, barbecue's great, you're God approved. Um, and it's a ritual. It's a ritual sacrifice. So he sacrificed. So this is very much a Levitical type sacrifice, and it's even using the Levitical language of a soothing or a pleasing aroma to the Lord, to Yahweh. So he has
Which is
this
a
other
funny, it's
sacrifice. So
almost
for
like
the
a tongue twister in Hebrew. It's reach nichoach. And my kids know it because when we would go through, when we do the Shabbat class, we called it, we'd be reading through and we'd talk,
yeah.
we'd read Hebrew and then the English, and they'd always laugh at reach nichoach because it just, it's like almost like a sneeze or something.
Do you have to have the hot in there too for the
Oh,
pleasing,
I
or is
think
just
I think in when it's talking in the Mosaic system,
oh
uh,
Levitical? Okay, it's the
yeah, I
ha is
don't know if
dropped.
there's ha there,
Okay,
but yeah, I see that that's there in
okay,
the in he, right here.
yeah. Again, I'll have to check like the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Masoretes are interesting, man. Anyway, uh, they're good, but there's definitely alterations that they made on purpose.
That would be
That's
an
fun.
interesting stream topic, Chris.
Oh, the differences between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Masoretics.
And the Septuagint, maybe
I
you
mean,
could do all three. And
that would take a ton of planning.
yeah.
Yeah, we could do that eventually. Maybe after we're finished with the Torah, we could do that. It'd be a
Mhm.
fun little thing. Yeah. So we have God accepting the Levitical sacrifice, and if Adam, Adam is a type of Christ, but with Adam, Jesus, because I believe Jesus is the one who's walking in the garden. Jesus is the one who killed the animal to cover the nakedness of man. So Jesus is responsible for the first sacrifice. He's also responsible for the last sacrifice of sin. So the first sin offering and the last sin offering Jesus makes himself. The second sin offering that we get in the Bible is, I believe, this one, and it is done by Noah, and it establishes the new covenant. So the Adamic covenant is no sacrifices are needed because there's no sin yet. Sin happens, and Adam covers the breaking of that covenant by sacrificing an animal himself, likely a sheep, if I had to guess God's heart. And then we had to then go to Noah, and Noah is now the one offering sacrifices. So we go from man's system to God's system, where now he is the one sacrificing an animal to cover the sins of humanity. And it's not just one animal, but it's every clean animal. So this would include the bulls, the goats, the lambs, the birds. Like, it's just all of it. Massive sacrifice to the Lord here. Because of that, he's basically establishing every single Levitical sacrifice happening. So
Oh, interesting.
Noah
Yeah.
gave first sacrifices of every category other than whatever Jesus used in the Garden of Eden, which again probably was a lamb if I had to guess. Same with like Abel taking the sacrifice. I don't know if you could count the Abel and Cain sacrifices as like covenantal sacrifices or like sacrifices for sin, the way that one and this one is. That could just be like offerings, which are
Mhm.
slightly different language in like Leviticus 2 and 3. But yeah, interesting thing to point out, interesting things to think about. And then God, because of this, says, I will never again strike down every living thing as I have done. While all the days of the earth remain, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So all the days of the earth remain. So after the earth doesn't remain anymore, these things will end, is one of the possible readings, or just says that the earth will continue going on and on and on until the end, and then we'll have a new system. Or there's people who interpret this as even in the new earth, we still have these things. Yeah, those are the different interpretations I'm aware of. Good night, Tom. Or
Oh, see you,
good.
Tom.
You're not. Yeah. See ya. Yeah. Would the modern version of gratitude sacrifices be tithing extra? Probably yes. Yeah, because
Chris, what
you can give offerings.
what does
So
that
those
question
are the
mean?
offerings
Not understanding.
the
Oh,
gratitude
oh, oh.
sacrifices. So
Okay.
yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay. Now I get it now. Modern version, not. I
I'll
thought
say
modern version was a
yes.
modifier of gratitude, like mentioning today's gratitude sacrifices. No, no, no. I see what it's saying now. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So tithing extra today in the Christian sense would be the Christian version of the gratitude sacrifices of the Levitical system, because you can give thanks offering to the Lord. So that would be
Right.
tithing extra as the thanks offering of the Christian system. But just doing extra work for the kingdom. Like everything I'm doing now is a thanks offering to the Lord because I love him so much because he's done so much for me. I then go through the effort and the struggle of doing all this ministry work. And despite what some people think, this is not easy. I've given weeks of my life so far creating all this stuff and doing all this stuff. So to end this discussion with this, because we'll probably get into this next week, but he establishes the covenant with the rainbow. I will put my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of my covenant between me and the earth. I want to mention this because it's part of the flood discussion. For the rainbow, we have, if it is a local flood, how could the rainbow be an everlasting covenant that he will never flood in this way again?
Oh, right.
Surely other regional floods, such as like even deep floods like the Nile, that would go against God saying that he'll never do it again. So that would be
Mhm.
part of what I would point to be like, okay, this is kind of hard to say that it is a local flood. This is the language I think is difficult, and the promise, the covenant of God with the rainbow, also, in my opinion, makes it difficult to be a local universal flood.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Unless it was like you said, um, that all of life was kind of all together in one area.
right. Then it's like
But
the
that
type of
also,
death
though,
would
is
be the unique
difficult with
factor.
the right, which is emphasized to the end of all flesh is before me and everything with the breath of life in it. Uh, but uh, at the same time, I don't know that that really squares so well with the rest of the details we have.
Right.
And I just, again,
Yeah.
I mean, modern study and science and geology and everything aside, for me, the way I kind of view life, and I, not to sound like one of those like blind faith dummies, where it's just like, I think what I think and I don't care what anybody else thinks. I just don't see a reason to read Genesis, anything we've covered so far in this stream or any of the previous ones, as uh myth or I mean, I just don't see the reason for it unless you feel pressured by what today we view as the modern scientific consensus, the general one, uh,
Right.
which is very atheistic and I would say, obviously, but I'm biased, but I would say satanic. I just don't
Uh,
see I don't see the need to cower to the opinions of people. And again, I'm not dismissing what we've observed and how we've observed it. I'm just saying if it doesn't line up with what seems to be the very plain meaning of the Bible, then I just take it as well. We're not doing this correctly. We're not observing correctly.
right.
So
Right.
uh, just doesn't bother me much, and that is why it's like with people who do hold to like old Earth or theistic evolution, I don't understand how I don't really get that, but I don't mean to be disparaging or disrespectful to anybody, but it just seems to be such a silly thing to do because to me it feels like the Bible says this, and I now must reinterpret what the Bible says because a group of people see this and these two don't agree, so I'm gonna blend the two together. I don't know. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. But that's all of you old Earth people out there, theistic evolutionists, you can rail against me in the comments. But that's my view on it so far, and I don't see a reason
Yeah.
to change my view at this point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm gonna save a
Hi,
lot of
Ruby.
the opinions I have on it for the full video I want to do on it, but
We've just
I
got
don't see any reason to accept or reject either, other than just
mm,
makes sense. But Gary is very confident that his book explains everything, so I'll read his book and see what he thinks. But
Gary, I'm
I will
I'm in the
scrutinize
middle
it.
of like two books. How many pages is your book? Is Gary still here?
156.
Okay, not too bad.
Yeah.
Now, if it's size 16 font, that'd be even better.
Yeah, full video. Yeah, it's he says 200. Sure, Amazon said 156 if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's 156. I don't usually get numbers wrong. On Amazon is what it says. 5 by 5, 8 by 8, or 5.5 by
Now,
8.
Gary, I will tell you, Chris is a very busy man, and to the extent that I don't actually know how he like sometimes it would make sense to me that he's basically
You
lying
lagged
that he
out
has a
there.
wife and kids because I don't know how he does all the stuff he does. It makes no sense to me. But it would definitely be cool to see Chris's opinion on your book, and but also uh give him some time because he's doing like a million or million and a half different things. Maybe I could read it in Chris's stead and give him the quick overview.
uh,
I
Man,
think
I only
the
have 12
appeal
projects
to
going on right now.
divine origin as a source is an interesting thing because I would wager to say you're either not of sound mind or you are, and so that would be that ups the game, I think, for the content of the book by quite a bit. So
Right. It either has to be blowing away or it's not. Yeah, it's not it. I think
mm,
at that point. You are welcome. I enjoy doing this. Despite me not having any free time, I do enjoy this. So all my free time I spend on creating, writing, or reading. Um, that's my life cycle right now. So I have two young kids that I watch every day. I have a full-time job, and I do this. Plus, I manage 6 projects. Um, one of which is the Quran translation project, which is going to be super based whenever we're done with it. Like that, I think that project in and of itself, like that project and the Talmud Dilemma project that we're working on, I think legitimately could help end Islam. And I don't mean that hyperbole. I don't mean any of that. I mean, I do think what the tool that we are working on right now could help end Islam in the digital age if every Muslim gets their hands on it and they actually use it. Or even if it's just pressure of like, if even 5% of Muslims get their hand on this book, not this book, well,
mm.
my book too, but on that tool, because the tool will be free and online and accessible, and it'll be in English and Arabic, and we might try to make an Urdu. Uh, that tool is going to change the way we talk about Islam. So, um, yes, it is going to be pretty wild. Um, that'll hopefully be done by the end of the year. We have a bunch of people working on
That's
that.
great. That's awesome.
Um, yeah, but I will I will hope with that. We will get that accomplished. So help me, Lord. We will get that done. And hopefully next year I can do this full time and not use up as much time, and my wife could be a stay-at-home mom and I could actually have free time. That'd be nice. But
That sounds like
we'll
paradise,
see.
Chris.
It does. It sure does. Yeah. I haven't had free time in 4 years. So yeah, I'm ready for it. Let's bring it on. Okay. Anything else you want to say on the topic, or if you want to go down any more tangents before we wrap up? It's getting kind of
No, I
late.
think we're getting a little bit better at there was still plenty of tangential things, but we did 3 chapters, Chris. I think we should
Yeah,
win something. I think we
yeah.
should get a
Good
prize
thing
or
you're young.
something.
I mean, I look a lot younger than I really am, but
And
4 years is impressive in terms of stamina. Yeah. Uh,
that's why
yeah.
Chris needs everybody get in on the chat and tell Chris, hey, there's a thing called Sabbath, and it's really awesome, and it happens once a week, whether you like it or not, and really, I mean, that really is the only thing that's kept me alive this whole time, honestly, because I'm one of those people that's kind of like Chris, where I'll just work and work, uh, and there's nothing really that convinces me to stop working. And then God told me, well, you have to stop working on this day and who am I to argue with him? So everybody get on Chris because I think he's considering it. I think he just needs that one push
I mean,
it's an ought rather than a should.
I do a form of Shabbat. Excuse
I
you.
know.
It's just
But I
not
gotta tease. I
nearly as
gotta
good as what
tease
you
a
do.
little bit.
Yeah, you got it. I've been doing better. I've been doing better about taking Saturday off. Of not doing anything other than spending time with my family and playing games on my phone. That's about all I do right now. And then I cook or clean, or we go on some family adventure. But I'm not doing this at least, so that's a win.
Yeah.
But no, I still work on Sunday. Usually, so we're at church from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., give or take, depending on what we're doing that week. So I am at church most of the day Sunday.
Mm.
But yeah. Anyway, we'll get there.
Our
Thank you all
friend
for
Gary
coming
says
out.
Paul
Thank
freed
you
us from
for
the law, so that's an upcoming thing, Gary. We'll discuss that at some point. That the idea
yeah,
of the meaning of that phrase. We're working on
it's true.
it.
Okay. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for watching. For Christian's audience, we were on for double the length that he was on, so thanks for the
Now we just
5
do it out
people
of
who are
spite.
still here from yeah, I know. For the 5 people who are still watching from Christian stream right now, thank you for sticking around. You should go subscribe to my channel. If you're watching from my channel, you can just go to Christian Gadfly. Steven doesn't have a channel because he's a lame-o. And he also doesn't know how to make videos. So, yeah. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate you guys listening to me babble on about random stupid stuff and giving me an outlet to talk about these things. We'll eventually get more into the Jesus focused stuff. Whenever we get past like Genesis 11, we get into just the stories and narratives. We're gonna do a lot of typology, like a lot of typology. It's gonna be pretty awesome. So that'll be pretty fun in the coming weeks. Hey lurkers, what was the favorite part of the stream? I do have a schedule that mostly works for me, but I would definitely enjoy having more time to work on things. So, as stupid as that sounds, I do actually wish I had more time to work on things instead of more time to take off. But okay, all right. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit with you always. Goodbye. And then for Christian Gadfly's stream, Zut be with you.